Coming to us from Fox 29 in Philadelphia. Fires burning in multiple spots. If you know that area, northeast Philadelphia, Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. We're being told by Fox 29 that multiple fires are burning. There are pieces of what appears to be this airplane scattered here. That's from Steve Keeley, one of the reporters from Fox 29 on the ground. You can see some of the fires there. Authorities closing off those areas. We're trying to get word of casualties. We don't have any official word from authorities yet, but let's listen in to Fox 29 as they're reporting this live. Just happened a few minutes ago.
Breathing in this area. He said he smelled jet fuel here. Steve, are you there?
I'm in the middle of the smoke now, Jason. I was trying to go back to get a closer look at the car parts, and the smoke is blowing along the ground. And I see a Philadelphia Gas Works truck just showed up because I'm told that a gas line is in danger. Sometimes meters that are on a house are connected to gas lines, and something might have hit that. But I'm walking through the Roosevelt Mall parking lot right now, and I'm going to walk over. And now, as I realize my previous path, the parts I saw scattered in the parking lot are very, very far from where I videotaped a bunch of fires. And so Roosevelt Mall is pretty big, an outdoor strip mall, for those of you who don't know. It goes from Roosevelt Boulevard all the way down Cottman Avenue. And it was packed. And now I'm hearing saws, like Dogs of Life type saws right now, in front of the Dunkin' Donuts, which tells you rescues are going on. And that's fire department activity trying to cut through something on Cottman Avenue. Now, Jason, now the flames are on a house. That's what they're doing. A house is on fire. The corner house, I don't know what side street it is. It's right out the Drive Mall. There is flames shooting out the roof of a house. That was the side street. The corner house at Cottman on the side street right in front of the Roosevelt Mall is on fire now. And I'm looking at flames 10 feet high out of the roof. And now I see firefighter ladders, firefighters. That was what I was hearing because the smoke shifted, and now I can see. And so that's where more smoke's coming from. This was right where there was a bunch of cars on fire along Cottman. So a house is now on fire, and it's the top of the house. So if the flames started on the first floor from this plane crash, the flames have now gone up to at least 2 floors. I can't tell if that's a 2 or 3 floor house. But that is now the latest. And these flames are getting worse coming out of this house now, Jason. But the fire department is right on the scene. They were right there, and I did not see a house on fire initially. So there we go. It looks like the flames are down, or at least they're being blocked by smoke right now. But
Steve, we're watching. Let's look at some of your video that you took earlier. I'm having a hard time understanding what in the world happened because you're describing a house on fire. I see a Dunkin' Donuts. I see cars on fire, a debris field that may be stretched several city blocks. And I'm trying to really understand what has happened here in northeast Philadelphia with just chaos happening in this parking lot. You've got the mall there, several fast food restaurants, a T-Mobile store, and a home. All right. How many fires are we talking about here?
So, Jason, now I'm looking directly across. There is a fire on Cottman Avenue on my side, which looks like an SUV or a truck, and it's all gone, but it's still on fire. So I don't know if that's fuel or whatever is burning. And then across Cottman Avenue, directly from where that vehicle is on fire, is where the house is on fire, and those flames are shooting out of a second or third story roof right now. So that's what's going on right there. And this is probably 4 blocks off of Cottman Avenue across the street. I'm looking at firefighters putting spotlights up there. The flames on the street level where that SUV or truck is on fire are a good 10 feet into the air as well. And the flames on the roof are a good 10 feet. And there's very thick smoke. The only positive news is that's white smoke now, no longer black smoke. And that smoke's now coming directly at me. There is a light rain blowing here, too, as well. So rain's falling, there's the wind, and chaos, as you put it, that's a perfect word for what's going on. Now it looks like firefighters are trying to douse that vehicle fire across the street as well. So, and these streets were blocked. When I was coming here, the police were trying to clear Roosevelt Boulevard. The fire vehicles were having trouble cutting through the rush hour traffic on the boulevard. and getting to this scene. And so they kept the boulevard open as they were trying to clear all the traffic off of it. Here comes some more thick smoke. 1 year. I'm sorry, brother. That's right. That's right. So what you're hearing is everybody just trying to look out for my own good, clear out. All right, so Jason, now it's complete. I can't even see right now. It's complete black. All I see is a flickering red light or so. And now I can see some more flames on the street, but this is still not under control by any stretch. And like I said, multiple fires. And then it wasn't just vehicles. There's at least one house on fire as well. I'm moving just to get out of this smoke, number one, which will also help me breathe and see a little more. So.
And Steve, you mentioned when you first got there, you said you saw plane parts.
Yeah.
Did it? Can you tell what size plane by the parts you saw?
And these parts were not big. And like I said, I didn't know what they were.
They might have hit a gas line or something. So obviously, like Baltimore, Philly, a lot of these East Coast towns and East Coast cities.
I was tripping over things. It's in a parking lot, and then the officer said, "Hey, these are parts of the airplane. They began taping it off, and you'll see some of that in my video as I'm walking through it. And you don't ever want to walk into evidence scenes and debris scenes,
right.
And so I got out of there. But in the one video I sent back, you'll see that, and I had no idea what it was. It just because it was. You know, it wasn't anything that you could identify. Let me put it that way. It didn't look like airplane parts. And the biggest part I saw was like 2 feet by 2 feet. So it looked like insulation. It looked like something from a house.
Well, it very may well have been. It looks like, as you mentioned, a house was on fire. Every firefighter in the area, I've got to imagine, is there, along with a cop. And, you know, we have no word on any injuries or fatalities. We have no word on what kind of plane this was. And we showed a doorbell video, if you're just joining us, a doorbell video from about a half a mile away, I'm assuming.
All right, Jason.
Yeah,
Jason,
go ahead.
So to give you an idea, you're with Wendy's. What store is this? This is all right. So I'm with a worker right across from where the house is on fire. What did you see in here while you were working?
Man, I was just working. I was making a drink, and then I just see a big old explosion of light just out of nowhere. I felt the vibration. It was crazy, man.
And did you have any idea what it was?
Man, I don't know. At first, I thought it was like a gas leak or a gas truck, you know what I'm saying, collided with a car. But then I hear it's a plane, and I'm like, what? What do you mean a plane?
And then you looked out the back door here. You're fairly close. You see a house on fire here? Do you know what street that is right there? But the side street.
Oh, the side? I'm not really.
Yeah, but
side street.
But you saw all the fires here.
I saw all the fires. Yeah, it was crazy, man.
And what was the reaction of everybody in the cafe and all around here?
Oh man, everybody ran, bro. Everybody ran. They left.
And who wouldn't leave? How did you finally hear about it being an airplane?
Oh, it was crazy, man.
You see all the parts in the parking lot next to the cafe here?
Not the parts per se, but I just see fire, man.
Yeah.
Smoke, everything.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Pleasure safe. So there you go, Jason. This worker is about a football field's length from where the house is on fire. So we're behind, and if you're pulling up a map and you're wondering where I'm talking to you from, I'm right behind the Cane's Chicken Store, which is fronts right on Cottman, in the front of the Roosevelt Mall, which is diagonal right across from this house on fire. So it looks, I don't see any more flames on the house, but I see flames initially on the street that have been right in the driveway of the Roosevelt Mall, right next to the store that lists the sign that lists all the stores here. Those flames are now kicking up, and I have no idea what's burning. It must be some kind of fuel. And I don't know if that's the gas line, because now I see a team of Philadelphia Gas Works workers, and they look like they're getting...
Okay, this is live in Philadelphia. This is our Fox affiliate, Fox 29. It appears it is a plane crash, but we haven't confirmed that yet. You're hearing the reporter Steve Keeley on the ground with Fox 29. We're going to stay with these pictures and this breaking news out of Northeast Philadelphia, very close to the Northeast Philadephia Airport. You can see all of the fire trucks and the authorities on the ground. We're going to stay with this and figure out what's happening. Breaking tonight, we're getting some word out of northeast Philadelphia of what's believed to be a small plane crashing into a number of houses there. Waiting for some pictures there. I think we have them coming to us from Fox 29 in Philadelphia. Fires burning in multiple spots. If you know that area, northeast Philadephia, Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. We're being told by Fox 29 that multiple fires are burning. There are pieces of what appears to be this airplane scattered here. That's from Steve Keeley, one of the reporters from Fox 29 on the ground. You can see some of the fires there. Authorities closing off those areas. We're trying to get word of casualties. We don't have any official word from authorities yet, but let's listen in to Fox 29 as they're reporting this live. Just happened a few minutes ago.
Breathing in this area. He said he smelled jet fuel here. Steve, are you there?
I'm in the middle of the smoke now, Jason. I was trying to go back to get a closer look at the car parts, and the smoke is blowing along the ground. And I see a Philadelphia Gas Works truck just showed up because I'm told that a gas line is in danger. Sometimes meters that are on a house are connected to gas lines, and something might have hit that. But I'm walking through the Roosevelt Mall parking lot right now, and I'm going to walk over. And now, as I realize my previous path, the parts I saw scattered in the parking lot are very, very far from where I videotaped a bunch of fires. And so Roosevelt Mall is pretty big, an outdoor strip mall, for those of you who don't know. It goes from Roosevelt Boulevard all the way down Cottman Avenue. And it was packed. And now I'm hearing saws, like Dogs of Life type saws right now, in front of the Dunkin' Donuts, which tells you rescues are going on. And that's fire department activities trying to cut through something on Cottman Avenue. Now, Jason, now the flames are on a house. That's what they're doing. A house is on fire. The corner house, I don't know what side street it is. It's right at the Drive Mall. There is flames shooting out the roof of a house. That was the side street. The corner house at Cottman on the side street right in front of the Roosevelt Mall is on fire now. And I'm looking at flames 10 feet high out of the roof. And now I see firefighter ladders, firefighters. That was what I was hearing because the smoke shifted, and now I can see. And so that's where more smoke's coming from. This was right where there was a bunch of cars on fire along Cottman. So a house is now on fire, and it's the top of the house. So if the flames started on the first floor from this plane crash, the flames have now gone up to at least 2 floors. I can't tell if that's a 2 or 3 floor house. But that is now the latest. And these flames are getting worse coming out of this house now, Jason. But there's the fire department is right on the scene. They were right there, and I did not see a house on fire initially. So there we go. It looks like the flames are down, or at least they're being blocked by smoke right now. But
Steve, we're watching. Look at some of your video.
1 second. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this Twitter feed in here for you guys. Watch this video. It's only 16 seconds, but this is probably the clearest view that we're getting right now. Check this thing out. Look at that. There's no audio with this clip. It must be just a dash cam on that car. But that right there looks like it's going to be the best and closest image that we're going to be able to see right now before, investigators. So how does the plane looks like it's almost, that's why I'm curious. Like, is that actually a plane? I'm not trying to, be a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but that thing looked like it was kind of lit before it hit. Let's watch this again. Look at that. Boom. That looks, I can't wait to see what all the other outlets are talking about. So let's get back to, I pulled up another one from CNN. We're going to try to see what they have to say about it. Again, I want to be able to bring all different types of news outlets.
Turn any text into speech instantly using AI and 11.
Update from the WRAL Live Center with that breaking news we brought you at the top of this newscast. We have learned that at least 6 people are dead in that plane crash in northeast Philadelphia. This is all from our partners at the Fox station in Philadelphia. sources with the Philadelphia Police Department tell them this was a medical transport aircraft that took off from the Northeast Philadephia Airport and crashed into a neighborhood. 2 doctors, 2 pilots, 1 patient, and 1 family member were on board, and apparently they have died. No word about anyone on the ground. We can tell you as we monitor these live pictures from the NBC station that is covering this that it appears as though homes and cars are on fire. This is some more video from the scene. This is a man who is there, posted this on Facebook, and you can see pieces of the airplane, other debris out there, and you can see an active fire. This is all happening in the northeast part of Philadelphia, and it's going to be a big story through the night. Of course, we'll have the latest on WRAL.com and tonight at 10 on WRAL News.
It's just shocking, honestly, especially on the backs of everything we were covering in Washington, D.C. It's unbelievable.
Update from the WRAL Live Center with that breaking news we brought you at the top of this newscast. We have learned that at
Go back to Twitter to kind of see what else we can find in here. Look at that view. So that looks like it's an aerial chopper, probably one of the newest choppers that are flying around. I wouldn't imagine they would put a drone in the sky like for this, but I could be wrong. We got fire trucks showing up, EMS, ambulances. This is a mess, and I hope the families that are in these houses either got out or are okay. So again, blessings and thoughts and prayers go up to Northeast Philadelphia. Being from the East Coast, it kind of hits close. It's only 80 miles up the road. Let's go back. What else we got in here? There's another.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
That's triggering.
Oh my God! Oh my God! La ilaha illallah! There's a plane, bro! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell?
Here, watching the beginning. Right there.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell? What the hell? What?
Avenue, yo. I was right there, bro. What the fuck? Yo, somebody crit. Oh my God, yo, the world, yo. What the plane just crashed on Cottman Avenue, yo. I was right there, bro. What the fuck? Yo, somebody crit. Oh my God, yo, the world, yo. What the plane just crashed on Cottman Avenue, yo. I was right there.
Let's see. I want to try to get a little bit of a longer video, but all of them are real short. They're just 16-second clips, and I hope we're just going to keep scrolling. This is that one video I showed you. Okay, let's see what this one does. This is 47 seconds. This is a ring. This is the original one that you saw. I think this is a ring bell camera. That shows that
a fucking plane just crashed on Cottman Avenue.
This is another. Oh, what's this one? This one's 13 seconds. God. Yeah, man. She's still hanging. Going out and trying to get a beer. Yeah, man. She's still hanging. So it looks like we're probably okay. Here, this looks like what's this? It says Philadelphia plane crashes, has some extreme interesting flights around Mexico yesterday and Haiti. Also is not logged. Okay, I don't think this is. This is this is Screaming Cartel hit, and I'm not one of the massive tinfoil hat guy, but damn. So they were reporting that it was a medical flight. And this gentleman is talking. Also, it's not logged that it was departing from Philly Airport. This is Screaming Cartel. I didn't even think about cartel. I did not even think about that. But let's blow this up. Okay, so here is the log. That's Fort Lauderdale. that's nothing. What's this right here? Okay, so this looks like it shows the path. So looks like it takes off and then it shows where it crashes, but that's not really that great of a unbelievable. Okay, all right, so here, what's this?
Misericórdia. E era avião relacionado com alguma coisa de emergência. Caramba, mano. Você tá louco. Que loucura. Wow. I gotta go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up. Get away. Get away. Excuse me. Excuse me. Gotta go. You have to go that way. Gotta go.
Galera do céu, vocês não estão entendendo. A loucura que tá isso aqui. E o tanto de peça. Olha lá onde tem fogo ali, ó. Atingiu foi 2.
All right. 2 minutes. Okay, here's this.
Can I get... Yeah, just go the long way, bro. Just go the long way.
All right, brother. All right.
Just stay on the other side of this tape line right here, okay? All right, appreciate it.
Philadelphia Police, we got EMS, fire department,
A plane has crashed right off the boulevard at Cottman Avenue. It's on fire. It's not under control. It looks like a side street. All police and fire. It looks like debris here. I'm in a debris field. They're roping off the parking lot. There is thick smoke and the smell of jet fuel. I'm working, I'm sorry, with Fox. I need to get my, I should have worn a jacket. Sorry, brother.
Just go down around that
I will. There's pieces of the plane here. We're near Northeast Philly Airport. There are lines of police and fire as far as I can see. Black smoke filling the sky over the shopping plaza. It looks like it's on a side street, affected. We're right across from a busy shopping center. So, the plane, pieces of the plane are in the Roosevelt Mall parking lot, it looks like, according to police. That's why they're roping that off. This was as close. There's black smoke. Sorry, I'm breathing bad. Flames and black smoke coming
over. I don't
over.
know if you guys can hear him, but he's breathing pretty good. He's trying to maintain some good oxygen levels here. Okay, what else do we have? It's the same one we just watched. We've watched that one. So a lot of these are going to be the same thing. What I'm going to do is we're going to hop over to where did we get? We got this one. Let's see here. Oh my God.
Fox,
I know who you are.
can I get...
Allahu Akbar, what the hell?
Watch that one.
What the hell?
Unbelievable. Is that a man on fire? What in the hell? There's a gentleman, there's a guy on fire. Stop, drop, and roll, man. Oh my God. Did you guys see that? Look at that. There's a guy on fire. Lay down. It looks wet. Just roll around. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. That can't be that can't be real. Oh my God. All right, here, this looks like, okay, so we have audio release shows air traffic control trying to reach the Learjet 55 before the Philadelphia crash. We have a lost aircraft. Okay, let's tune into this right here.
On departure, turn right heading 29ers.
To the beginning.
Medevac, med service 056, on departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff, wind 25010. Medevac, med service 056, affirmative. On departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff. Medevac, med service 056, contact Philly departure 123.8.
123.8, Mike Tango Sierra 056 Medevac. Thank you, good day.
Medevac, med service 056, Northeast Tower, contact Philly 123.8. Medevac, med service Northeast Tower. Medevac, med service 056, Northeast Tower, you on frequency?
Medevac, Mike Tango Sierra 056, Northeast Tower, how do you hear this transmission?
Medevac, med service 056, Northeast Tower.
Turkey 6098 Foxtrot, Northeast Ground, Roger. Stand by one. I'll get back to you when I can.
Looks like this is where they're losing it.
Approach to runway 24. What's going on down there?
Position 755. We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed, so no inbounds or outbounds probably.
All right, understand. Thank you.
For 6098 Foxtrot, I'm sure you copied that, but for right now, we're gonna call the field closed. We'll try to get you out here when we can. If we can't, we'll have to take you over to Atlantic. But stand by for now.
Unreal. Wow, people get this information super quick. So we're like, again, there is a bit of plane crash in northeast Philly. Looked like it hit a strip mall. Viewer discretion advised. Body parts are spread everywhere on the Cottman Ave right now. This impact, the plane is bigger than what is being reported. This is so sad. Prayers to the families involved in the Philadelphia Roosevelt Mall. Okay, let's tune into this one. Let's blow this one up and see. Again, viewer discretion per the post. Look at that. Oh my God, that looks like a worker's foot. But we're going to get out of there. Let's see. Oh my God. Imagine opening the door and seeing that. Graphic video on a reporter from Philly plane crash shows person on fire among the wreckage. So this is what I want to hear audio. I wish this had audio. Dude, lay down. Why'd the guy pull the camera away? Unbelievable. That's... Oh my God. Here's that aerial footage again. I don't know if hopefully we can get some audio. That's what I really want. I want to get some breaking small plane crashes, left multiple people injured in Philadelphia. Shocking footage shows chaotic scene on the ground where it came down. That's where the person's on fire. This is a picture of, looks like ground zero right now. Oh my God. What a mess. And again, a lot of these cities, especially I can speak for the East Coast being here, Baltimore, they have all these older buildings, all the gas lines, everything are underneath these row homes, and they're all connected. So once one goes off and they hit a gas line, it's going to make the incident a lot worse. Here in Baltimore, we have this kind of happen without obviously planes crashing into it, just faulty lines, and you'll get 3, 4, or 5 row homes, and one will just completely explode. Let's go back. Okay, so a breaking Philadelphia plane possibly involved in crash identified as a medical Learjet. Okay, so let's see. So that's looks like in the background, that's the Learjet. That looks like the engine capsule right here. If you can look on this side, right around there. This is unbelievable. Let's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play one of these again, and I'm gonna hop onto another site to try to get some updated videos on what really is going down. So let's we'll go back to let's see, plane crash. Let's just type in plane crash Philly. Let's see what comes up. Okay, so we already watched. This is ABC Philadelphia. Let's tune into their local channel news.
Much for that reporting again, folks, as we continue to follow this breaking news coming from Northeast Philadelphia. So much shock and awe right in our backyard there as we watch different pieces of video coming in from social media. You can see how alarmed people were. Some people just going about their day. Shari, as you said, you saw people walking down the street. A plane comes down and one person, you said a commander or someone sent you, was actually on fire.
A person on fire.
We saw one man who was just, looks like he was leaving his home, saying goodbye maybe perhaps to his wife. And in the background, you saw that plane come down and then that ball of fire that erupted. He runs back into his home and you can hear his wife screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." Again, this Lear Jet 55 crashing around 6:30. The FAA saying that it was on its way to a medical assignment in Springfield, Branson, Missouri.
My God, what the hell?
Heavily traveled area.
Yeah, the thing that is so surprising is because we don't have to really go through this often. Plane crashes are not common in the United States.
Let's check out some.
And here we are now reporting on our second such plane of devastation in a matter of days. And this is just only heightening the concern and making people feel uncomfortable and just really in a place of disbelief.
Yeah, as we heard some witnesses saying they saw bodies on the ground, they saw cars on fire. We know at one point we were talking to Brianna Smith, we saw a building on fire. Firefighters on top of that building attacking the flames there. We know there are multiple casualties tonight, and now becomes the big questions of how this happened, why did this happen, and investigators have a long way to go, of course, as this is all
I dare
continuing
you to let me build
Let's
you
go now to Action
completely
News
free.
reporter Brianna Smith, who is near the scene of the crash, as close as we can get, because we're trying to, of course, do this safely and within the parameters that police are asking us to do the reporting. Brianna, you have an update?
Well, Shar, we are at Cottman and Roosevelt. Like you mentioned, we are pushed back, working to learn more from police. I did reach out to see when we possibly would be able to get an update, so I am waiting to hear back. But I'm still taking a look at this smoke that's coming from the building. We mentioned it about an hour or so ago. That was behind the Cottman food. Gray also mentioned it, where we saw the firefighters on top of the building. Still wondering where that smoke is coming from and why and how it started. I'm sure first responders working hard to get it all under control, but still just very much an active scene here, Shari and Gray. We did see a fire truck leave the scene, but just so many first responders, police officers, just trying to figure out what happened here, assess the area, assess the damage. We've been talking to people who were here when the explosion happened, when they saw the houses, the vehicles go on fire, and just describe what it's like here. And, you know, you just think about the people who are on the plane, the people who are on the ground, those who are impacted in the homes nearby. We spoke a lot about this just being a very busy area, especially happening during rush hour. So you just imagine the people who were impacted by this. And, you know, we're working to learn more about those people, about the injuries, those who lost their lives. And you just can't help to think about these families tonight. But yeah, first responders here working hard, trying to make sure that everyone is safe and that things remain under control. But again, so many questions here, and waiting to hear from authorities to learn more about the crash tonight. Shari and Gray.
Yeah, Brianna, thanks for your reporting. Just a unbelievable night here in the city of Philadelphia. Some new information coming in from ABC News now. ABC News reporting that Jet Rescue Air Ambulance was operating that Learjet 55 that crashed here in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, we should tell you that Governor Josh Shapiro, of course, heavily aware of this situation. He's saying earlier tonight that his team is communicating with local officials and first responders, offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to this small plane that went down there in Northeast Philadelphia around 6:30 p.m. We know it was en route to Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri, and we saw Annie at Northeast Philadelphia Airport where that ground stop is now in effect. So we know this is a plane that was on a medical mission, and she alluded to the fact that this is already heartbreaking and shocking enough, but to think that possibly there were patients on that plane en route to try to get some help, and then this happens. That plane goes down right there in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, at this point, we don't know what happened to make this plane go down, but we know it did go down right there, right here in our own backyard. We see debris strewn everywhere there on the streets. We heard from witnesses who said they saw bodies in the street. They saw cars and buildings and homes on fire. And we heard one guy crediting the response of our police and fire department, saying that they were there within a matter of minutes.
Let's now take a listen to a witness who was on the scene near this area when the plane went down.
It was a small plane basically hit right over there, and it was just like, it was just horrific. It was something, I was just driving down the street and coming out of Wendy's, and I just saw a plane basically just hit the buildings, and just an explosion happened, and I just seen the sky light up, and I pulled over, and basically it was just real bad around here.
How loud was it? Like, did it shake you?
I guess definitely would say it was like minor earthquake-ish. Like, it was just real surprising. Definitely minor earthquake-ish.
And talk about, I mean, we've seen the videos. The fire was pretty explosive.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yes, it lit up the whole sky. Literally lit up the whole sky like it was daytime out here. And it's literally, what time is it? 7:15?
Were you scared at all? Did you, like, start running or take some steps back? Like, or did you stop in your tracks?
I was driving, so I was coming out of Wendy's.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a good 4 for 4. Shout out to Wendy's.
And then what did you see after the fact? Were a lot of people kind of in the street taking, you know, a look at what happened?
We saw a fire. Yes, there was a lot of people in the street because there's still Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. But it was definitely a real, it's horrific. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime situation. I hope everybody's safe at least.
There you were just listening to a witness who described what he heard, what he saw, what he felt, describing this as a minor earthquake, saying that this explosion, when that plane went down, lit up the sky like it was daytime. He was shocked in disbelief, sad, and of course, in total shock about what happened right here in Northeast Philadelphia. Certainly something that we randomly see or probably never see on the streets there in Northeast Philadelphia. There have been planes that have gone down before, helicopters that have gone down before, and we've covered. But this situation here is something that we have not covered, something like this before here.
Well, so this Learjet 55 crashing just about 2 hours ago after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. We are working to get more confirmation in regards to the number of people who were on board this jet. So far, we are hearing from officials that there were at least 2. We know there were at least 2 people on this Learjet 55 that was on a medical assignment making its way. It was hoping to make its way to an airport in Missouri. Let's go now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at that Northeast Philadelphia Airport where the Learjet departed from. Annie, what can you tell us?
Yeah, and Shari, earlier was reporting that there are up to 6 on the plane. I heard that from multiple sources. Then the FAA put out something saying 2. Sadly, we are hearing from even more sources that it is up to 6 people that were on that medical jet. Or hearing that there is at least a medic, a pilot, and possibly a patient. Of course, we're still working to get all of this absolutely confirmed from officials, but there are now an abundant amount of sources telling. people. So reportedly 6 people on this medical jet that was headed to Springfield, Missouri. At this point, we know that the flight took off a little bit after 6 o'clock. It crashed at 6:30. There are actually people that are arriving here to Atlantic Aviation right now. I'm not 100% sure if this is where the jet took off from, but there is a lot of activity here, and this is where police are as well. So at this point, there is a ground stop here. Detectives are in the tower now still as we speak. And again, we don't know the reason for this flight. We were talking about how there's a variety of reasons that something could be a medical jet. Another thing I learned in talking to, I am by no means an aviation expert. However, in talking to some people just within the past half hour, it makes a little bit more sense as to how a jet like that could take off in conditions like this. I don't know if you heard me earlier, but Ricky Harris and I were driving up from Delaware just before 6, and it was so foggy we could barely see on 95 with the rain. But when you have certain jets have certain instruments that are capable of flying in different types of inclement weather. And so what I am told by some people in the aviation field is if this is a medical jet, that it could be one that falls into that category to have those special instruments. And even if you have inclement weather, you have the ability to fly over, say, maybe a commercial plane or something of that nature. So it is making a little bit of sense now. As to what the medical mission was, we don't know. We were talking before, we've covered multiple stories over the years of different people that either fly to transport organs, they fly to transport a patient that maybe can't get a specific type of medical care in one area. Sometimes in situations it's somebody who's donating their time to fly them. We don't think that that is this situation here because this is believed to be a private jet. We don't think this is one of those situations. So at this point, again, we're still trying to figure out all that. But here at the airport now, what I'm also told is that they are checking on certain things. One of the things that somebody is out there right now testing the fuel. Not to say that that could be the reason why this flight went down, but they're going to start looking at all of the possibilities as to what that could have been. But I'm told that they're checking the fuel right now, in part since it's been such a heavy downpour now for several hours, checking possibly to see if any water got into the fuel, anything of that nature. We don't know that for sure. This is normal procedure to check all of the possible things that could go wrong. And when we're listening earlier this week in regards to the horrific plane crash that killed 67 people in Washington, we got a reminder of all of the things that federal investigators look into in these situations. So besides weather, there's going to be other things that has to do with the instruments on the plane, that has to do with fuel. Could this have been engine failure? And when you look at those flight all different names that basically do the same thing, where you can look and you can see where a flight takes off, what time they take off, where the flight is going. And when you look at the numerous flight apps and you see this plane, you see that it was barely in the sky. It wasn't even in the sky for that long, and it looks like it just went straight down before crashing at the Boulevard and Cottman. And again, probably the worst place in the city that it could crash, with the amount of traffic, the amount of people, the amount of commercial businesses and residential businesses all in that cluster. So those are all things that they're going to be looking at, investigators here. And again, that's also why they're talking to the tower right now to figure out exactly what the tower knew, what they saw, what they heard, if there was any transmissions between the tower and the pilots before. All of that is going to be broken down. And again, all of the types of things that when we've been watching the ongoing news coverage of what happened in Washington, even though this flight may have had significantly less people on it, they're all going to look at many of the same things to see how exactly this happened. It isn't because of weather that there's a ground stop, it's because of the plane crash. So we do know right now that that's why nothing is taking off here at Northeast Airport. But within just the past 20 minutes, I can say we've seen at least 4 or 5 people arrive here, running in with some sense of urgency. Whether they're investigators, we don't know. When it comes to the FAA and the NTSB, they have investigators that are stationed, in different areas of the country to respond. So, that could be people that are coming to respond to that to begin the investigation. So police still have a presence here, but obviously they want to put the majority of their resources to the catastrophe that they're seeing all around in the Northeast right now from the multiple things that are happening. Besides the plane crash, besides the debris that's on the ground, you have the fires, then you're going to have to cut off gas lines and power. So you're going to need police not just to assist, but also to assist with the crowds, to assist with people that may have to be evacuated. So at this point, that's why there is a limited police presence here, even though there is a presence. So again, we also know that there are detectives as well. But we know that that plane, according to the flight tracker apps, that plane not only left a little bit after 6, it crashed at 6:30, but it was headed for Springfield, Missouri. Now, on these flights, if this is a flight that was a medic flight and it had up to 6 people on it, then that could also mean that there are potential to be either a doctor, a medic, a nurse, somebody from the healthcare profession on that flight. If you have a patient on a flight like this, they need to be monitored throughout the entire flight, and it's tricky. You're dealing with they're in a different situation. They're out of a hospital. So depending on the extent of care that patient might need, they're going to need somebody with them, a medical professional, and potentially too, maybe a family member as well. So learning more now, hearing again that this is for a medic flight and this is what went down is just, it's so sad and so tragic. And, we're still just working to find out a little bit more information about what exactly the mission of this flight.
Annie, thank you for your perspective and your great reporting there as we continue to take a look at some of these images of this plane that went down here in Northeast Philadelphia. We talked about the situation in Washington, D.C. Over the Potomac, where the American Airlines flight slammed, or the Black Hawk slammed into the American Airlines plane. We saw that go down, 67 people losing their lives. Yeah. But when you look at this video in our own backyard, it's a different situation, and it brings it closer to home, as we know there will be mass fatalities. We've seen the videos of people on fire walking down the street there in Northeast Philadelphia. And there's the explosion as that plane goes down. We know that people have lost their lives. What
we also realize about this is the magnitude of the scene. The scene itself is, because it's a populated area, the impact is different because there are people on the ground who were walking the street, who were getting on the bus, who were walking to their cars, who were coming out of their homes. It's so populated in this particular area that the scene itself that needs to be tended to.
Somewhere, something with an M, or I'm not exactly sure, but that there might have been 6 people on board, and then we think it may have broken apart above the mall, because there's plane parts in the mall parking lot, but then it hit like at Cottman and around Leonard Street.
So you were over in this area, of course, a busy time of night. People are here getting dinner. That's what you were doing?
Yeah, just walking around, figuring out where we might get something to eat.
In the immediate aftermath, how soon before police started to arrive and people started calling 911?
It seemed like within a minute you could hear sirens approaching, and then it just swarmed. They were just an immediate response.
And Jimmy, in light of what just happened in Washington, D.C., what went through your mind immediately when you saw that plane go down?
Well, you don't want to think you don't want to think the worst things, but obviously it's very concerning to have two aviation disasters so close together when we haven't had one really in quite some time. So it's concerning for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're with your family, is that correct? What did you guys do as soon as you saw the police starting to move in?
We just kind of sat there with our jaw dropped. We started to inch a little closer, but then the police started cordoning everything off. So I didn't want to get too close because it just looked bad. Yeah. And other people were running towards it, and too many cooks spoiled the broth, so I didn't need to be in the way.
Now, if somebody is just joining us and did not hear the beginning of our interview, people are saying that it sounded just like a bomb was going off. Is that what it felt like to you?
It felt like the ground shook, and you could hear it was a loud boom. It was startling, for sure.
Did people start running toward the scene? My understanding is that people were running toward to try to get video as opposed to running away from this scene.
Yes, a lot of people did. Like when I go to a concert, I want to hear the concert, not film the concert. So I just kind of stayed back, let everybody else take care of it, and let first responders, arrive and do their due diligence. I'm not looking for a second explosion. So once I hear one explosion, another one might come after it. So I have children, and they want me home tonight. And sadly, some people, won't have that luxury today. It's very sad.
Jimmy, people who are not from this area, can you describe what this area is typically like right around dinner time, and what kinds of people, how the traffic situation was? Because, of course, as this comes down, it leads to a major incident with fire after that explosion. And this is a very busy time of day.
This is a pretty busy area. It's Cottman and Bustelton. It's, the Roosevelt Mall's been here my entire life. People are getting something to eat. They're shopping. There's a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of commerce here. So it's typically pretty busy either way, even with the weather.
Jimmy, thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I'm glad that you're safe. And thank you for sharing that with us. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation out here. We've talked with several people. I spoke with a gentleman who was working out at a gym right down the street here, and he says that the weights literally started to fly off the walls. The building was shaking so furiously. But Shari, we'll stay on the scene, and we'll bring you more as soon as we have it.
Jessica, thank you. We want to go to a live briefing right now where officials are giving an update. Let's listen in.
Okay, they're still preparing for it. They're still preparing for this update here. At least we know that they are hoping to come to give the public a preliminary update for what they know at this point. Let's go now to Christy Aletta, who's here in the studio with us. And the images that we are getting from our viewers, Christy, they are astonishing, devastating, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been playing this video for sure because this is one of the best ones that gives us a good vantage point of what actually happened. And we know that moments after this crash, residents and witnesses immediately began contacting our newsroom with videos and pictures of not just the aftermath, but also the impact. This is the ring cam video that we've been playing on repeat pretty much of the crash happening on Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. You can see a couple that were leaving their home, and then suddenly a large bang, which was the moment the plane crashes to the ground, and suddenly a massive fireball lights up the sky just behind those row homes over there. And then I want to go to another video because this gives us a different vantage point of the crash, this time near the Raising Cane's on Cottman and Bradford Street. An Action News viewer says that he was in his car in the parking lot and witnessed the moment the plane went down. And then you see that large fireball in the distance pretty much burst into the sky. A large black plume of smoke billows over that parking lot, and then you can see residents began screaming in horror, kind of running to the scene, trying to see what happened and make sense of everything that's unfolding. And then this video from Cynthia M shows a closer perspective of the aftermath. A parking lot ablaze, and it appears from this point several cars possibly also on fire, debris of what appears to be parts of the plane, and maybe some of the adjacent vehicles scattered all over the strip mall, and also a neighborhood. You're actually getting to see just how close this is to where people live. And then this final video, again, of the aftermath, parts of what are presumably, again, the plane, possibly cars, anything it may have hit, scattered along the 6-lane highway of Roosevelt Boulevard. And then the sobering sound of sirens as first responders are now racing to the scene, and the video showing us just how close, again, this is happening to homes, the residential area, the business district. We've been hearing so much from the reporters around the scene that this would have been a very busy time on a Friday evening, regardless of the weather, because this intersection, this neighborhood is so populated. People coming out of their homes, which are literally steps from the scene, standing in horror, trying to figure out what has happened. Certainly this is nowhere close to the magnitude of what unfolded in Washington just a couple days earlier, but certainly terrifying because this is happening on a busy highway, Roosevelt Boulevard, in a business district, and in a heavily populated neighborhood where, like we've been mentioning all evening, this just doesn't really happen, and now it's happening so close to home. Gray.
Christy, seeing the images puts everything into perspective. This is our backyard. This is our home. We know the presser is about to start, so let's listen into officials as they brief us on what happened today.
Start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation. This is only the first of many briefings, I'm sure, to come on this evening. And of course, when daylight comes, when we have more facts and information to share with you. But I do want to say a special thank you right now, again, to all of our federal and state partners and our amazing first responders right here in the city of Philadelphia. Our fire, our EMS, our police department, they have been here working vigorously to ensure that we get this perimeter and the surrounding area blocked off to ensure that we make public safety and health our #1 priority. So we don't have any further information to share at this time. I've spoken to our Governor Josh Shapiro. He is en route. I've spoken to our U.S. Senator John Fetterman, other federal officials, and everyone, all hands on deck. That's where we are right now. Thank you so very much, and we'll have more information to report in the near future.
Thank you, Mayor. That is Mayor Sherrill Parker giving us our first update that we have officially received from city leadership since this Learjet 55 went down just after 6 o'clock tonight. So that's our first update. But what we're hearing is they are really in the process of doing their due diligence of still trying to confirm who has been impacted and where we are in regards to injuries, and unfortunately, possibly fatalities. But so now she's asking for prayers, urging people to stay away from the scene, just reiterating how active this scene is and that public health and the safety of everyone who is near this area and doing their best to work this scene is really the priority right now.
You can hear the emotion in the mayor's voice there as she briefed us on what she is now learning about this breaking situation as that plane went down a little after 6 there in Northeast Philadelphia. She stressing that officials at this point are not sure about the number of fatalities. Again, they're asking for prayers or asking you to stay away from this area. She did confirm several buildings and cars were reportedly on fire. We also know that the FAA, the NTSB investigating this. She alluded to the fact that Governor Josh Shapiro on his way to the scene there. Federal and state partners are either there on the scene or they are en route. We can see looks like a worker with the FAA. I think that's a shot there of Northeast Philadephia Airport where there has been a ground stop because of that plane that went down in Northeast Philadelphia. And as Christy Aletto was showing us the video of the aftermath of what looked like a bomb went off in Northeast Philadelphia, and there you see the fireball as that plane went down. And now begins the questioning, Shari, of what exactly happened. What caused this plane to go down? As we learned, it was on a medical mission going to Missouri. And now becomes what happened? Why did this happen?
And we see the different departments getting in position to begin to answer those questions as the official with the FAA is now on the scene at the Northeast Philadephia Airport. We know the NTSB ultimately will take over the investigation and lead it. But this is really a phased situation. And I just got off the phone with one of the fire commanders, and what has to happen is it's the fire department who must first clear and calm this scene. That is mission number one, get the fires under control. The commander sharing with me that most of the fires are now extinguished. They do have some hot spots, but they feel good about the majority of what was burning is now under control. That this went up just to about a 3-alarm fire, some 130 to 150 firefighters coming out to get the fires under control of the homes, the cars, and of course the scene of the actual crash involving the plane. So that is...
If you guys know anybody in Philly and around that area, I've already reached out to some friends. So I encourage everybody, if you know anybody, reach out, make sure they're okay, see if you can get some updates on how they're doing and kind of what the vibes are on the ground up there, and to make sure everybody
closer. But first, they have to secure that scene.
And we continue to watch these images coming in of this horrific and nightmares situation there in Northeast Philadelphia. We have heard from witnesses throughout the night. We want to get you back now to Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia, who is on the ground there talking to witnesses. Jessica, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? Set the mood there for us there in Northeast Philadelphia.
Greg, it's really incredible. There's such an active scene here behind me, and people have so many questions. And what's interesting in covering a story in this time is people are sharing video nonstop. So some people were here at the scene, some people were working out nearby, a very busy evening here in this area, people running out to pick up dinner, and so many people saw this. Joining me now, David, you're from Ronhurst. You were at home and you felt this.
Yes, I felt the shockwave of the explosion all the way from my house, and I live like 5 minutes from Cottman, and it was just insane because after that I had a bunch of people call me, like my friends, telling me what was going on. So many videos were being sent, and just all over Instagram and TikTok, just videos of the plane crashing, graphic footage of, I've seen body parts scattered all over the explosion, and it was just very graphic.
And that's a big challenge for us as well, because we're seeing this video as well, but it's very difficult to see at home. As soon as you arrived here on the scene, what did you see as far as the officers arriving and emergency personnel?
What I've seen is mostly, when I was arriving here, is smoke. Just smoke everywhere. People all around here. This is honestly the most busiest I've seen Cottman, like with cops and just people in general.
Okay. You said your sister lives nearby, or one of your friends had witnessed it, and
Yes.
What did they tell you?
They just told me that he was on his way to the gym, and he just witnessed the explosion, and he was like very shocked and surprised.
Yeah. You have seen this video circulating. What have you found to be most concerning? You know, we've been talking and covering extensively this crash in Washington, D.C. Any fear go through your head when you first saw these videos?
When I first saw these videos, I I was mostly shocked and fear. I'm not really scared of this, but it will go through people's heads to be more cautious and to be careful out here.
Okay, absolutely. And what are you doing now? You're just here for the scene?
Yes, I'm just here looking at this, and it's honestly one of the most probably traumatic experiences of Philly.
Yeah, I think people are just really drawn to this because they've never seen something of this magnitude in this area.
Nothing is, I've lived here for almost like all my life, and nothing like this has ever happened before.
Yeah, yeah. David, thank you so much for talking with us. I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing the video with us as well. And again, Shari and Gray, there's quite a bit of video to comb through, and unfortunately, some of it is extremely graphic and very difficult to watch. So we'll get that video to you as soon as possible, but we'll stay on the scene. We've talked to so many people who were in this area. They said they come here. It's a typical Friday night. They're picking up dinner. Some are at the LA Fitness, which is right across the street. There's also a nail salon here behind me. Hundreds of police troops, of units here at the scene as well, and you can still hear the fire trucks and ambulances behind me. Shari, you had mentioned that the fires appear to be out. It's now dark, so it's really difficult to see any of that smoke, but as we were pulling in, you saw some of that smoke billowing, and the video from the aftermath as soon as that plane crashed is really phenomenal. There's no other word to describe it. It's just really, really difficult to look at. So we'll continue to gather the news out here and send it back your way.
Yeah, you're so right about the images that we're not showing and that you can find on social media, and just really showing just how intense this situation is and the number of people impacted. Jessica, thanks for your reporting from there and the interview of what the witness shared as well.
And as we continue to report on this breaking news, we want to kind of put this in perspective in terms of the distance from the Northeast Philadephia airport to where this plane went down. It is less than 4 miles. So that tells you this plane was not in the air very long. Now begins the work of investigators, as Shari mentioned, put out the fires first. The NTSB, FAA will come to the scene and they will collect those black boxes, which will hopefully give them some insight about what exactly transpired here. We know tonight that the aircraft that went down is a Learjet 55 that's going down just after 6 p.m. right there in Northeast Philadelphia along Cottman Avenue. You heard the mayor talking not too long ago saying at this point we do not know the number of fatalities, but we do know people have lost their lives tonight. This is happening in our community. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters impacted by this.
Let's go now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at the Northeast Philadephia Airport. These are the images coming from there as more federal officials are arriving who will be a part of getting to the bottom of what happened and what went wrong. Annie, can you hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm standing right next to the camera. We want to focus on the video you're seeing right there. You see a gentleman with an FAA windbreaker. I've seen a number of these people within the past half hour, 40 minutes, beginning to arrive with definitely a sense of urgency. So you have members of the FAA that are meeting here. Of course, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, that is an independent federal agency that is tasked with, among other transportation investigations. They also investigate anything with civil aviation as well, and so they will be tasked with this. So at this point right now, they're finding out the basics, the nuts and bolts. They're talking to the tower, they're checking the last transmissions, the last communication that the tower had with the pilot prior to this. They're looking at everything. So you can see it looks like there may have just been a meeting inside Atlantic Aviation within the past 40 minutes. I have learned a little bit more information. I don't have it confirmed that they took off from Atlantic Aviation. I have learned that the plane did take off from runway 24 here at Northeast Airport. It was a little bit after 6 when it took off. 6:30 is when the plane crashed. And Gray, I just heard you talking about, just the distance, just about 4 miles. And, in the air, that's a much shorter distance as well. So when I see the investigators responding here, we saw them loading up that truck right there. It looked like with, just the materials that they need and in regards to their investigation. Not clear if they are going to the crash site now or if they already have other investigators there, and these investigators are tasked with finding out the information that they need from Northeast Airport. We do know now the Secretary of Transportation, new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, saying that there were believed to be 6 people on board. Like we said earlier, we do know that this private jet was on a medical mission, if you will. It is a game changer knowing that there are more people on that plane than initially what the FAA said, which was just 2. If it was just 2 people on a plane in a medical jet, it was likely that they were either bringing organs for a transplant or something of that nature. However, if there are
I'm not sure how they get so discombobulated and so many different reports. We've been watching the same channel for the last few minutes, and it went from 2, went to 6, went back. Now she's talking again that there could be only 2 people, and they're talking about medical transport. It's completely irrelevant. We already know that there was 6 people on the plane. All right, we don't know if there was a pilot and a co-pilot, if there was just a pilot, or if there was a medic, but we know that there was a patient, there was a patient's family member, and then you had 2 doctors. There's 4. Okay, so if you add a medic on there, so they do medical flights to make sure that everybody's stabilized and do jobs that the doctors necessarily don't do, then you have a pilot. So we're at least 5 to 6 people. I don't know why they keep talking about maybe there was only 2 people and the flights are carrying organs. I think that's completely irrelevant. And I don't think it's really true. I think it's just freaking. They're just running. They're just talking
and
shit.
Police have remained here since we arrived. We've seen police here. And again, earlier the FAA did initiate a ground stop here, and we were told that is specifically because of the plane crash. I say that, it seems obvious. However, the weather conditions tonight aren't great. I was telling Shara, you and Gray, I was telling you earlier that Ricky Harris and I, photographer Ricky Harris, we were driving back from Delaware. I'm going to walk in front of the camera now that everybody's inside. We were walking, or driving rather, from Delaware, and it was so foggy, probably because of it's a little bit warmer than it was at least 2 weeks ago. And because of that, it was incredibly foggy, hard to see when you're driving. But I've been told, and I preface this with, I am not an aviation expert. However, in talking to some people in the aviation community within the past hour, it was explained to me that there are specific types of jets that have special instruments that make it so that they're able to fly in conditions like this. And there's a wide spectrum of that. For example, you see, Coast Guard flying overhead in some crazy storm rescuing people. Obviously, they have special instruments. So it was explained to me that there is a wide spectrum. And so this medical jet could fall under that spectrum, but it does have the type of instruments that maybe a commercial flight may not have. So when we were initially questioning the weather conditions and whether or not a flight could go up, of course, that's one of several things that they are going to look at, that they're looking at right now in this investigation. What was the weather like? They're going to check the conditions of the plane. They're going to talk about the last communication that they had. They're going to talk about the fuel. They're going to check to see if this was potentially engine failure. And one person that I was talking to within the aviation community, they said, when you look at the flight tracker apps, and I'm not saying a specific one, like a name brand, I just mean that there's a wide variety of them, and I looked at a few. You can see that when this plane went up and was only up very, very briefly, and how quickly it just came down, it had some people wondering if that was a sign of potential engine failure. Again, something that investigators will look into. In regards to federal investigators, when we've done these stories in the past, sadly, we've covered multiple helicopter crashes or plane crashes or things of that nature. When they come out here, they're going to be looking at pretty much everything. Now, these investigators are stationed in different areas of the country, different regions rather, of the country. I remember in the recent couple of years when there was a crash that we covered, some of them came up from Virginia, and they basically take over and they're going to start looking at everything, and they're going to when they get the plane, actually get all of it, all the debris and everything, which will take time, they likely then will take every piece of that plane that they can get, bring it to a facility, and then they're going to lay it out and essentially reconstruct it and then piece it apart. That's how it's been explained to me in previous crashes that I have covered by federal agents that do investigate things of this nature. But again, it's the NTSB that will be, the independent federal agency that will be tasked with that. FAA also involved here as well. We do know that detectives, Philadelphia police detectives initially were in the tower, likely maybe somebody with the federal government with them as well. We don't know. So again, gathering as much information as we can. I will tell you that at this point, we haven't seen anything of the nature that looked like family members. When I went into Atlantic Aviation, when we initially got here, it looked like there were some people that were waiting for later flights that then were told about the ground stop and then they left. So at this point, we're not seeing any of that. But like we said, the Secretary of Transportation, who now is dealing with 2 plane crashes on his first week on the job, he's saying that 6 people on board this flight. So we're still learning to find out who exactly they were and what role they were playing in this medical mission that they were on.
All right, let's stick with
Great reporting, Annie McCormick. Thank you for that. We should mention that Governor Josh Shapiro.
Shout out that reporter for holding that umbrella at a 90-degree angle the whole time. That's some good muscle in her shoulders.
Mayor Sherelle Parker of the City of Philadelphia saying at this point, we don't have an exact number of fatalities. We do know indeed there are fatalities. We've seen videos of people on fire, cars on fire, buildings on fire. The mayor saying at this point, what we need is to people to stay away from that scene, and also she's asking for prayers.
As we begin to approach the top of the hour, almost 9 o'clock here in the city of Philadelphia, I'm Shari Williams alongside Gray Hall. You're watching Action News. We're in continuous breaking coverage as we are covering a plane crash that happened just after 6 o'clock in the northeast section of the city. So far, we know that a Learjet 55 crashed just around 6:30, just before that time, after it departed from Atlantic Aviation, which is the airport in northeast Philadelphia there at the airport. We are learning from the Transportation Secretary. Their reporting is 6 people were on board this Learjet 55. Initial reporting said that there were at least 2 people on board. The Transportation Secretary with the update saying that there are reportedly 6 people on board. So far, we have not been able to get any confirmation as for injuries or fatalities. No one ready to assess that, because at this point they also haven't been able to get probably all the way up to the crash site. This plane was en route to Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. It was on a medical assignment. So this is a medical assignment that this Learjet 55 was being used for. As we take a look at the distance and the route that this plane tonight was planning to take, leaving northeast Philadelphia, heading into Missouri. We also know, as speaking with the fire department so far, I had an opportunity to speak with one of the commanders, and that they say at this point most of the fires have been extinguished. But boy, when you look at what happened right when this unfolded, it was quite the plume of smoke, the ball of fire also coming with it, and it really got everyone's attention in the city.
Yeah, we talked to eyewitnesses there on the scene. They described there. And again, to put this in perspective, you saw Annie there at the airport. This just about 4 miles away from the airport. So again, that plane was in the air, went down relatively quickly. We're hearing again that 6 people were on board this aircraft, and we know more than likely there will be fatalities on the ground there. We want to go back now to Action News reporter Leland Pender, who's outside of Jefferson Torresdale Hospital with more on what he's hearing and learning. Leland, bring us up to speed.
All right, before we listen to Leland, I wanted to show you just a quick picture of kind of what the type of jet that was.
Press office. So there's already an effort to kind of coordinate how information.
This character real quick, and we are going to. I want to just show this part right here. So this is what they're saying is the type of plane that crashed. Now, obviously, it's really not that big. However, like someone said in the comments, most likely they had a full tank of fuel. They had just taken off, and these medical flights. There aren't that many people on there. Not that there any insignificance there, but so we're saying 6 people, a patient, a staff on there, and a family member. And I'm sure later on we're going to get names of who they are. But here's a picture of kind of what that jet would look like. It looks, yeah, so you can see there's definitely room for a pilot, co-pilot, and then you have the back where the medical staff is going to be. So let's go back to our boy Leland and see what he has to say.
And numbers we may hear, but for now, that is the latest here outside the hospital. Leland Pender, Channel 6 Action News.
Okay, Leland, thank you. Forgive us, Anna, are you referring to
the individuals I believe that were on that aircraft?
And who is confirming this?
As we try to confirm some information, what you're looking at right here is some ring cam video as that plane goes down there in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, this is.
See if I can't find any of the victims' names before they kind of.
Is an everyday community in Northeast Philadelphia. People going about their everyday lives. When all of a sudden that happens, what you see right there in the screen, that fireball is that Lear 55. Aircraft that went down just after 6 p.m. in Northeast Philadelphia, and then you see there the aftermath, what looks like a bomb went off. We know that debris into buildings, cars on fire, and sadly, not to be too graphic here, we saw people actually on fire as they walk the streets there. We know that this area heavily traveled there. We know this, again, this plane went down around a little after 6 there in Northeast Philadelphia along Cottman and Roosevelt Boulevard there. And this not far from the Northeast Philadephia Airport, which is now, of course, under that ground stop. We know the governor on his way to the scene there. And as Shari alluded to, the first matter of business was to put the fires out. We know that cars were on fire. We know homes were on fire. We know buildings were on fire. And again, we know that at least 6 people were on board that medical aircraft that was en route to Missouri. And we.
All right, so I want to pause this. I just jumped over to Twitter real quick. Let's put this up here for you guys to see. I just saw this post right here. Update. This is NBC 10 Philadelphia. They just updated and are saying there's a pediatric patient was among one of the 6 people on board the small plane that crashed in Northeast Philly, according to Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. So man, so there must have been a child and a parent on there. They're trying to get a transport out to a different hospital. So let's all right, let's go back to
this Learjet 55. 4 crew members, 1 pediatric patient, and 1 escort. So yes, a child was on board. We do know that this Learjet 55 was on a medical assignment. So this all lining up with the information that now there was 1 pediatric patient, 1 escort, and 4 crew members aboard this Learjet 55, which took off from the Atlantic Aviation Airport there in Northeast Philadelphia.
We want to go live now to Action News. Is Christy Aledo. She is live for us in our satellite center. About 8:30 tonight, we heard from Philadelphia Mayor Sherrell Parker. Christy has reviewed that sound and has more now from the mayor.
Yeah, and if you remember what she said, she was asking residents to steer clear of that neighborhood as first responders and, of course, investigators tried to process the scene and try to piece together what went wrong and also try to piece together who was impacted. Obviously, we have just learned, as you guys have said that ABC News has confirmed that 6 people were on board, but then also who else may have been impacted by the ground. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Let me start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now, we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation. This is only the first of many briefings, I'm sure, to come on this evening. And of course, when daylight comes, when we have more facts and information to share with you. But I do want to say a special thank you right now, again, to all of our federal and state partners and our amazing first responders right here in the city of Philadelphia. Our fire, our EMS, our police department, they have been here working vigorously to ensure that we get this perimeter and the surrounding area blocked off to ensure that we make public safety and health our #1 priority. So we don't have any further information to share at this time. I've spoken to our Governor Josh Shapiro. He is en route. I've spoken to our U.S. Senator John Fetterman, other federal officials, and everyone, all hands on deck. That's where we are right now. Thank you so very much, and we'll have more information to report in the near future.
I think that was a great speech by the mayor. It was straight to the point. She was honest with facts that they do have and facts that they can and cannot share. What I just looked up, I want to show this to you. So what are the issues of a Learjet? It says Learjet aircraft, particularly older models, have historically faced issues like bleed air leaks, concerns with airframe integrity due to high-speed stress, short cabin space, potential problems with engine components, weak batteries, and lack of auxiliary power in earlier versions. Now, we don't know how old this jet was, what the year was, but as you can see, the smaller aircrafts do have some issues with them within their construction. Learjets can experience wear and tear on the airframe, leading to potential cracks, corrosion, and the need for frequent structural inspections or repairs. The bleed issues, particularly with the 40s and 45 series. Okay, so we're at a 55 series, so I don't think we're worried about the bleed air issues. Let's see, parts, finding replacement parts for older jet. Okay, so we need to figure out how old this jet was, and then go from there to see if this was an older jet and there could have been some mechanical issues, some maintenance issues that may or may not have been overlooked. And we've heard in the past with other plane crashes that there was things skipped, safety measures necessarily weren't checked, and in turn caused planes to go down. So let's see. I'm gonna keep doing some research. I'm gonna put you guys back on the live news, so you guys can watch this with me and kind of get the information as soon as it comes out, and then we can talk about it. So let's get back to right after the mayor's speech.
Crash. The restaurant itself was shaking itself, and then everyone saw the flames, and the staff and everything like that, and the customers all left, and he was able to make it home. And then by the time when I got here, when he called me, that's when I finally got my first response that he was safe. And then when I got here, I was in complete shock.
Yeah, what was that call like when you heard his voice?
He was pretty much shaking because he's never experienced something like that before. He was just working, cutting up food in the back, and then after that, he just didn't know what to do. There's no strategy for something like that. You're not prepared for something like that in this world. So he was just very, very shaken.
Describe for me the scene when you pulled up. You saw the smoke as the plane had gone down.
It's like, as much as I'm a person that's always a person that wants to help someone, so I'm like, I wish there was something I can do, but also, I have trust in police and firefighters and ambulance to do the best thing they can, and I just wanted to know how can something like this happen and what's going on, and I was just very shaken.
Yeah. Have you heard what happened, and what is your response to the scene afterward and hearing that a child may have been involved?
No parent should experience something like that, losing their child, and you don't know what to go to. You can't tell them everything's gonna be better. It's kind of like you can only see it, and you're just like, you can only wish for the best, but there's not any proper words for the scenario.
You and I were talking off camera about Northeast Airport and what the traffic is like there, and you said you routinely see planes coming in and out of that airport.
Correct. So, especially there's a bank, post office. I used to drive around there all the time, and I'm always seeing helicopters, sometimes police helicopters flying in and out. So we're always seeing like air traffic control coming out. So you never know if. You never think something, a scenario like this happened. I'm thinking everything was under control. None of this would never happen in my lifetime. I've been here since 2004, so I live in Northeast since 2004. None of this has ever happened before.
Sure. In light of what just happened in Washington, D.C., what were your thoughts when you heard that this was a plane?
Twice in a row, that's unheard of. We never had a story like that before in our lives. So I think steps should be taken to prevent something like this, and nobody else should experience something like that in our lives, honestly.
Ricky, thank you so much for talking. I'm so glad that your cousin's doing okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. And we are going to continue to monitor this scene. We are hearing that some people are being taken to a nearby shelter, so we're going to look into that. And Shari and Gray, we'll get back to you with more as soon as we have it.
Okay, Jessica, thanks for your reporting and for the interview there. It just really hits home with the sentiments that so many of us are feeling, knowing that we are already feeling the devastation and heartbreak from that major jetliner and Black Hawk colliding in Washington, D.C. That already has the entire nation worried, concerned, and feeling down, worried about those families who've been impacted. And now just 2 days barely later, we are covering another crash, which we unfortunately are waiting to hear the condition of those who were on board. And so right now it's Philadelphia that is in the center of the nation, getting so much concern. As I'm sitting here on the desk, my phone is going off with people from Texas, from Georgia, from Tennessee, from Alabama, asking, are you okay? And we know it's because there's so much heightened concern because of the previous plane crash that happened where so many souls were lost. No one wants to see this happen again, and it's not a normal occurrence. This is not normal news in the United States, dealing with 2 plane crashes in such a short amount of time to this extent. It now has Philadelphia at the center of the attention shortly after what happened in Washington, D.C.
And as we continue to watch the devastating images that continue to come into our newsroom, you can see the flames there. We know buildings, homes, cars on fire, people on fire. And we're getting some new information, this coming in from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, who operated that Lear 55. They are confirming those 6 individuals who were on the flight. 4 crew members, 2 passengers, and a pediatric patient and an escort on board. At this point, they couldn't give any more information. They say at this time they could not confirm any survivors. No names being released at this time until family members have been notified. They go on to say that our immediate concern is for the patient's family, our personnel, their families, and other victims that may have been hurt here on the ground. We heard the mayor saying at this point, we just don't have an idea of how many fatalities, but unfortunately there will be more fatalities there in Northeast Philadelphia.
So many people we also know had to be transported immediately because of burns, because of flying debris. It'll take a while for officials to be able to really check in with all of the hospitals in the region to really get a real sense of how many people have been hurt by this. Everyone, of course, just caught off guard by this devastating news. We want to go now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at the airport in Northeast Philadelphia there at Atlantic Aviation. And our understanding, Annie, is this is where this Learjet took off from tonight in Northeast Philadelphia in hopes of making its way on its medical assignment to Missouri.
Shari, that's right. And that Jet Rescue Air Ambulance releasing that statement and clarifying what time the crash did occur. They're saying that that was at 6:25. And I'm told, or just by checking the flight tracker, that the flight took off here around 6:06. So giving us a little bit of an idea of how short of a brief amount of time that jet was actually in the air. Now, in looking at their statement as well, and they're confirming that there were 6 people on board, they do say 4 crew members and a patient and also an escort, and that is making sense from what I'm hearing from my sources, is that it was 2 pilots, 2 medics or healthcare professionals, meaning it could be a nurse, it could be a medic, it could be a doctor, we don't know. But in a plane like this, that would make sense because they would likely employ the nurse, doctor, or medic that would go with the patient. So they're likely employees of this company. And again, heartbreaking to hear too that a pediatric patient was the patient that was being transported to Springfield, Missouri. I'm also told that with the escort was a family member of that pediatric patient. We do know that when the flight took off after 6 o'clock, I was told 6:06, it took off from runway 24. Now, Atlantic Aviation has not confirmed to us that the flight took off from there. However, I can tell you since we arrived here, the bulk of activity has been here. In regards to police being here, when we arrived, there were multiple police officers, there were detectives in the tower, and there were a couple people inside, but they looked like people that were waiting for other flights. But when that ground stop went into effect because of the crash, they left. So at this point, we have seen, you saw a video earlier of the FAA arriving. We saw probably, it looked like about 7 to 8 potential investigators that were all here. It looked like they had a meeting inside of Atlantic Aviation before they loaded up a pickup truck and left the scene here. It's not clear, where they went, but there's a potential that those might likely be some of the investigators that are going to actually go to the crash site. Now, there's a number of things that in every situation like this that they're going to be looking at. So the NTSB, of course, an independent federal agency tasked with investigating civil air crashes. They will be, taking over, and the FAA here getting all of their ducks in a row and all of their people as they mobilize now to begin their investigation. And what's interesting is too, and so made such a difference, and some of the people I'm talking to about the level of catastrophe with this is, where this plane crashed, and the Boulevard and Cottman, rush hour, all of those lanes of traffic, they're 2 major intersections. There's the mall, there's so much there. It is the worst place for this to happen. I'm dating myself here, but 1991, I remember being in 6th grade watching the news coverage in Lower Merion when Senator John Hines' plane had a midair collision with a helicopter, and everyone died, including 2 young children that were on the ground in Lower Merion. They were hit by debris. So, in our region, obviously that's a long time ago, but if you grew up here and you remember, that's something that, is etched in my memory as a young child. And that's really the only comparison that I can think of within recent years, or decades, in regards to crashes of this level and the impact that it had, and also harming people on the ground as well. So, but one of the things too that I was told by people within the aviation community, because we were talking about weather conditions. It's been really foggy and rainy, and it was really foggy just before 6 p.m. and people in the aviation industry explained to me that there are special instruments for specific types of planes. It's on a wide spectrum. So, when you have Coast Guard officials that you're seeing in planes and they're going through all those crazy wind and rain and all that, it's because they have different types of instruments that are better equipped for those conditions. Now, I don't know if that is a good comparison to the medical jet that was here. However, I was explained to me by some people in the aviation community that a medical jet of this caliber would have a level of special instruments that would give them a little bit more leeway to fly in conditions like this. So this is going to be a huge undertaking to investigate, not just because of the area of debris and just the mere square footage that they have to go to collect all of the pieces of this plane. In the past, when we've covered crashes like this, it's been explained to us by the NTSB and the FAA about exactly what they do. They essentially get every single piece of the debris, they pack it up, they take it to another facility, and they essentially reconstruct it. And they're obviously looking at other factors too, but that's what they're going to do with all of that and put it together. I will tell you too that right now, initially, even within the first hour of this happening, they're also gathering important information. That includes final transmissions, final communication between the pilot and the tower. That's why when we got here, not only was there a police presence, but detectives, and I was told at least one federal investigator were in the tower. So it looks like that's where they start. They get those nuts and bolts down, and then they continue to gather and gather and gather. And we also know too, again, that after this all happened, I'm told that there were a couple things that they were checking here. There was somebody checking the fuel, which I'm told is done throughout the day and throughout the night. They're always checking fuel, but one of the things they were looking for was potential of any, water because of the rain. Not to say that that's the case. It's just something that they're looking into. So all of those types of factors are going to be really important in this case. I will tell you also that in regards to the activity, there was a sense of urgency when we started to see all of those investigators arrive. It doesn't appear that we've seen any family members or anybody that was connected to the people on the flight. It appeared to all be people that were part of the investigation or first responders. And when we went inside, Atlantic Aviation, not confirming anything at all, but in regards to the ground stop, we are told that the ground stop is specifically because of the crash and not because of the weather as well. So still more information to come, and specifically wondering what exactly this medical mission was for that very young patient who was on the plane.
Annie, you were just describing what you remember of trying to compare this moment to where we are on this day. And so many people are just really reacting to this, just really being unbelievable to have witnessed this. Just watching the images through the screen, we get the magnitude. So I can't even imagine for those who were able to see it there in person. Annie, thanks for your reporting. Let's go now to Action News reporter Brianna Smith, who is also at this point tonight one of our reporters near the scene, keeping an eye on the scene there, and also the officials that we are expecting to hear from tonight. Brianna.
Yeah, Shar, we already heard from Mayor Sherrell Parker, and we're waiting for Governor Josh Shapiro to make his way here. But we have confirmed that officials say 6 people were on board, 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and an escort were on board. They cannot confirm any survivors at this time, but again, we are waiting for Governor Josh Shapiro to make his way here. And as Mayor Sherrell Parker said earlier, it's all hands on deck here. We see several first responders still here on scene investigating, and we're working to learn more. And once we have Governor Josh Shapiro here, we will take that live so you can hear from him.
Brianna, thanks for your reporting from there. We are on standby. This important enough, critical enough that the governor of Pennsylvania is making his way here to Philadelphia.
Brianna, we know you have been on the scene for quite some time. Earlier in our breaking news coverage, there were buildings on fire behind you. There were rescue crews behind you. Has that calmed down a bit now? What are you seeing at this point?
Yeah, actually, Gray and Shari, I've been keeping an eye on that building that we mentioned earlier. We showed you about 2 hours ago where there was smoke coming from behind the Cottman food building. And as you can see, we no longer see that smoke there. So firefighters have everything under control. But as I mentioned earlier, several first responders remain here on scene. This is the most first responders that I've ever seen at an incident in Philadelphia. So that just speaks to how massive this incident is. And they're here investigating. And as Mayor Sherrell Parker said, said they're here to make sure that everyone's health and safety is the top priority, and she said it's all hands on deck here. She also made it a point to say keep everyone impacted, those who were on the plane, those who were on the ground and in the surrounding area, keep them in your prayers. They did not confirm the number of fatalities at this time, but we're thinking about all of them and our hearts go out to their families. She also said that first responders are here on scene evaluating. There's a lot of debris on the ground. She said do not pick up that debris, but instead call 911. And for those who are living in the surrounding homes, to stay inside so that first responders can do their jobs as they investigate.
Brianna, thank you for your reporting. Again, just when it hit close to home, it just feels different.
Yeah.
We are in total shock, as is our community there in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, this medical transport jet slamming into the ground there in Northeast Philadelphia. We're told it was in the air for about 30 seconds before it went down, erupting there in a ball of flames. Happened right near Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard a little after 6. And as we continue to watch this breaking news story, what is probably most jarring is to hear from those eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
This is their community. Their families live there. People going about their everyday lives. Some people walking down the street. We saw a doorbell camera of an individual, a man leaving his home, possibly saying goodbye to his wife. And you see the plane go down behind him, explode. We hear the explosion and you hear whomever that woman was screaming, oh my God, as he runs back into the house.
Residents and city leaders all over the area are reaching out. They're watching our coverage. They're texting me, and heavy hearts. People out there are really expressing that this is tough. And it's just compounded by what our nation has experienced with the collision that took the souls of 67 people right near Reagan National Airport. Now this is just really adding to the sadness and the uneasiness that people are feeling. So just know we hear you, and we know that sentiment is resonating across the city of Philadelphia, across this region. Again, it's Philadelphia that is in the spotlight tonight. This is making national headlines, so much so because of what happened just less than 48 hours ago. Actually, just about 48 hours ago. It was just around 9 o'clock when that Black Hawk collided with the passenger jet over the Potomac River in our nation's capital. That was Wednesday, just about 9 o'clock. And here we are, Friday, just about 9:30 on the East Coast, and we are covering another plane crash, one that at this point, we've got no word that there are survivors. What we can confirm from numerous sources, the FAA and also the owner that was operating the Learjet 6 people were on board that Learjet 55 when it crashed just after 6 o'clock. This Learjet was not in the air long at all. The first text I got tonight was at 6:11, letting me know, Shari, there's a plane down in Northeast Philadelphia. And we heard from Annie McCormick in her reporting that the jet took off just about 6:06. So we know that this plane was not in the air long at all and only traveled barely 4 miles before it crashed.
And Shari, as we continue our breaking news coverage, we continue to hear from eyewitnesses who saw this horrible situation. Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia remains there on the scene. Jessica, you've been speaking to witnesses. What are you hearing from individuals you're speaking to tonight?
Well, Gray, this is such a busy area, especially this time of night. As soon as I arrived here on scene, I started talking with people who were just in shock. They said, we can't believe that this has happened. We just saw this plane go down. One
Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. There's a couple, or rather, here we go. This is a different vantage point right here, and you can see this flash, this fireball just happen in the corner of your screen. The camera pans up, and then you see this large plume of smoke just billowing out of the top from behind row homes. And so then that's how it gives you an idea of where this is happening. So the first video is showing you that it's happening in a business district. The second video is showing you that it is happening in a neighborhood that is populated. This is on a Friday evening when a lot of people would have been out. They might have been at their homes having dinner with their families, and now they're experiencing and hearing and witnessing the shaking of just the impact of this plane, this chopper crashing into the ground. And then another video here. This is the drone video, and I think this also speaks to what Shari was saying, because they need extra crews to work tonight and tomorrow because of the size of this crash site. This drone video.
We do know it was right near that mall, and we do know that a couple of homes, multiple homes were ablaze as a result of this crashing Lear 55. Just to add to the news, I mentioned earlier that Donald Trump put out a statement, so sad to see a plane go down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, more innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged. First responders are already being credited for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all. J.D. Vance also.
I do want to say this about some of the news, just within, I would say even the last couple months, or say the election, since the election. And again, I'm not being biased on right, left, up, down, or straight, but there has been more talk about God in everything. And I hope people are noticing that at some point that they would never say anything like that on any type of national platform, bringing God into anything. I don't know what it has been the last couple months, but I've personally noticed, because I kind of stay away from a lot of the media on my personal side, because a lot of it's just bullshit, and it's very confusing, and you don't know what to believe. But I do value that God is being talked about more, or not even talked about, but referenced in terms of thanks and blessings. I think that little piece, inserting it into our public and our society is nothing but good. So that's what I think.
So retruthing that statement, and also and
like, look, you can see at the bottom of the seat it says "God bless you all." Like, I feel personally, I'd like to know what you guys think. A year ago, God would have never been on the titles down below on what incident was happening. If you think about all the past stuff that we've had, I think God's been the furthest thing away from our talk and our language. So I think we need to bring that back into our society.
Putting it on X as well. Very sad situation. May God bless the victims and their families. It is so sad to see this. You know, John, as somebody that is a pilot, and you look at, an aircraft like a Lear 55, viewed by a lot of pilots as basically a Ferrari or a Porsche or a sports car in the air. It's 204 knots, maximum speed, 1,600 feet, then dropping, like a rocket, 2,400 feet per minute in their descent. And you think about that possibility, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it is almost a vertical drop if you're looking at it. It's not quite vertical, but almost vertical. I don't recall ever seeing that before. Do you?
Well, I have seen it. I can't think of, a particular crash or case, but I have seen that kind of thing. There was the plane crash. It was a turboprop that killed the family of country singers or gospel singers. I've lost the name. But that happened on the Montana-Wyoming border earlier this year.
Wasn't that a King Air, if I recall, or no?
I think
that was Paul Wellstone was a King Air.
It was a Pilatus PC-12, is what it was. Which
Pilatus is a single-engine prop jet, yes.
Turboprop, right?
Turboprop, yeah.
And I think that plane came down at a very steep angle, and the feeling, I believe that the preliminary indication from the NTSB is loss loss of pilot control. So if, again, I hate to belabor this point, but if they were in the soup, you can't see the lights on the ground. You can't tell up from down. And if they didn't have instruments or they weren't reading them correctly or some of their instruments failed, it's just, you just point the plane somewhere and hope that it's level. It's really,
let me
really
ask you about that.
difficult
You're almost insinuating, or I'm reading into it, and if I'm wrong in interpreting what you're saying, correct me, but, we're talking about 1,600 feet, and it's not uncommon for a jet to take off with low cloud cover, and wouldn't that be a scenario where they would more quickly hit the autopilot if they're up in the sky to avoid the very thing that you're talking about, spatial disorientation?
I guess it depends on the crew. I mean, as I said, they were still supposed to be following direction from the control tower. They were told to turn to a heading of 290 degrees. And the fact that I think my interpretation is that they not only hit that heading, but then went way beyond it and did at least a 180 in the sky, or maybe even more than that before they impacted. That tells me that they were already lost, seconds litirately after they left the ground.
Once the plane takes off, isn't it can't you possibly hit the auto? My understanding is you can hit autopilot almost from the minute you take off from the ground. Is that not true?
Yeah, that is true. It depends on the autopilot and the aircraft, but and it depends on what the pilots have set up. They may have figured that they were going to get routed around by air traffic control.
All right, I just found an article I want to share with you that, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this kind of stuck out to me. What the hell was it? So I looked up the company of this Learjet. What did it say? It says crap, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to look up the company. So I know this was a private jet. This was a private escorted jet, a medevac, that was obviously purchased privately to get this specific pediatric family member to a hospital that, could, I would imagine, save this child's life, or get to the best medical treatment. But okay, so a photo of the twin-engine jet, which is a tail number that indicates it's registered in Mexico. All right, see that right here? It says a photo of the twin-engine jet, which is a tail number indicating is registered in Mexico, shows a jet rescue painted on it, and also medical logos on its tail. That's, to me, that just raises a red flag. I'm not saying that this has anything to do with what's going on in local politics now, but this right here raises a red flag for me. So let's go back and listen to Fox News.
For a while, and maybe they were going to program the autopilot later. It's anybody's guess, really.
Yeah. John, how many years you been flying, my friend?
More than 20 now.
Oh my gosh. Do you fly jets also, or what do you fly?
No, I only fly things that I can afford, and I can't afford a jet, but
they're not inexpensive. There's no doubt of.
I have spent some time in jet simulators, including some pretty high-end ones, but I do not fly a jet now.
A very good friend of mine who's a pilot, and I'm sure you would appreciate this, made the observation that, pilots are great, but great pilots, you really get to see their skill when something goes wrong. And you pointed this out earlier, and I heard your comments, the safety record of flying. Now, it is extraordinarily strange in light of what happened with this midair crash this week that, we would have back-to-back, crashes like this, although very different in nature. But flying is one of the safest things you can do, and the fact that, over 100,000 commercial flights will take off every single day, and I think it's 0.8%, of any incident that takes place is a pretty darn good track record. I wouldn't say we've perfected flight, but we've come pretty darn close to perfecting it.
I don't know the statistics on highway fatalities. A few years ago, maybe a decade ago, the last time I was paying attention, we were losing 50,000 people a year to highway accidents, So the fact that since the Colgan Air crash, which was back in the early 2000s, we had lost nobody in a commercial aircraft crash in this country until the plane hit the chopper over the Potomac.
Yeah, I remember there was that Lear that went down in Connecticut. We mentioned the other Lear with the pop star that went down. There was another Lear, a Lear 35. This is a Lear 55 we're talking about today that crashed at Teterboro. If I recall the year correctly, it was 2017. In that case, it was a stall on approach to landing that resulted in a high-speed nose-down altitude. And this is why I'm getting bombarded with people that I know in aviation and pilots that I know, and the consensus among them is that they believe their gut is telling them, at least the majority of texts that I'm reading as we're on the air here, that this could be a stall, and it wouldn't be the first time for a Lear. But anyway, John, we really appreciate your expertise, the time you spent with us, and as always, we'll be watching you.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, we go now to former Black Hawk helicopter pilot, Republican Congressman Tom Barrett. Tom, welcome back. We appreciate you being with us. As you look at the speed and trajectory, I keep asking everyone, I love your take on this.
Yeah, Sean, this is another absolute tragedy. Like you said, there are still a lot of questions left to be answered, and we, expect a thorough investigation of this. I think we can all draw our own theories, but that was an absolutely unusual attitude position for that airplane to be in. There was nothing natural or normal about that. That's not a normal flight behavior, a normal flight pattern or attitude to be in. So something else was taking place at that moment before that aircraft impacted the ground the way in which it did.
Yeah. What do we know about when you see that speed, that trajectory, that the plane had just taken off, reaching an altitude of 1,600 feet and dropping like a rocket or a missile? I mean, that's a frightening scenario.
It absolutely is. And we know that it tends to be the case that a lot of aviation mishaps, the overwhelming majority, take place on takeoff or landing. Those tend to be the most critical modes of flight, and when the most types of incidents take place, either because of crew workload or system failures or a mishap that takes place, those are the modes of flight when you're transitioning through takeoff or landing that tends to be the time at which these things become more of an issue. Certainly that happened in the most recent case over Reagan Airport with the collision there, and it's happened now at this unfortunate loss of life incident here in Pennsylvania as well tonight, both of which took, one on takeoff, the other on landing, both again in those highly, more prone to situational risk is really during those takeoff and landing modes of flight.
Yeah, Congressman Barrett, we appreciate you being with us. If you're just joining us, a Lear 55 jet crashed into a mall, also impacting a number of private homes, multiple homes ablaze. As you can see on your screen, emergency response has been fast and furious, and every attempt is being made to save lives. We know 6 souls were on board. This Lear 55 crashed around 6:30 this evening after departing from Northeast Philadephia Airport. 6 people on board the plane en route from Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. We learned that, in fact, that a young girl who had just received medical treatment under the age of 18 with her mother were on board with what were 4 crew members, and one of those being a health aid provider. And this comes less than 48 hours after that deadly in-air collision between a commercial flight, American Airlines flight, and that Black Hawk Army helicopter that left 67 dead at near Reagan National Airport above the Potomac. We go back to our own Alexis McAdams, who has more breaking news. Alexis, what's the latest? We're waiting for Governor Josh Shapiro, by the way, to deliver remarks on this deadly crash in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Hi, Sean. Yeah, hopefully the governor can give us some more details. Maybe they can identify these people who were on board and we can get some names. But heartbreaking. And I think when I was talking to you before, it's like you got to take a pause because we're looking at the fire. We're trying to figure out what happened, but you got to think about the people on board. You know, these jet rescue air ambulance crews tell me that all 6 people on board didn't make it, including a young girl and her mom, and then the 4 crew members. So this girl had just finished life-saving treatment in Philadelphia. They have some of the best doctors at some of these hospitals here. So they specifically brought her here from Tijuana, Mexico. I'm told that the young girl, her mom, and all the crew members were all originally from Mexico. They were supposed to land back in Tijuana, but they never made it. So she finishes up this treatment. She's supposed to go home and celebrate with her family, and the plane goes down. In terms of how that plane went down, as you were talking about with aviation experts, they're trying to figure it out too. But I think the main story for people on the ground and people are watching at home is thinking, what is going on with all those fires that were everywhere? Well, I'm told that's because this airplane, since it had just taken off, was full of jet fuel. So this thing goes down right there in the middle of this busy area in Philly, on the city's north side. It was around 6 o'clock, so they were coming and going. Things were moving quickly with those cars, with the traffic. Here comes this plane smacking down right in the middle, so hard that I'm told by some fire officials, Sean, a gas line ruptured. 6 houses were on fire and 6 cars were on fire. So you can see it in that Ring doorbell video. It's wild when you watch these things happen, as we just saw too with what happened over at the airport near Washington, D.C. It looks like a fireball coming down, and people in the area thought, what just happened? I just heard and felt an explosion. So some people were telling local reporters, Sean, that they felt like they were under attack. The debris is everywhere. So they go and they put these fires out as quickly as they can. And you talked to that fire official too, said that they responded fast. These were row houses, so they're all packed in there together. I guess that's pretty popular in Philly. So it kind of spread through those homes pretty quickly, but they were able to get those people out. So 6 people, according to this group, didn't make it, but we don't know about the injuries on the ground.
And a Lear 55 would have about 1,000 gallons of jet fuel, and on takeoff, I would imagine it was probably pretty close to full, if not full. So that's a lot of fuel, and coming down at that trajectory and that speed, resulting in the fireball that we saw on the ground. And you're right, you've been able to confirm now 6 homes have, in fact. We knew there were multiple homes ablaze. You're confirming 6. It's sad. This family was going back after medical treatment, a young girl under 18 with her mom, and didn't make it to Branson. Very sad. We appreciate it. Alexis McAdams, thank you for being with us. All right, joining us now, former NTSB investigator Charlie Pereira is with us. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Let's first get your initial thoughts, what you see. It looks like Josh Shapiro is about to take to the microphones. If I can, Charlie, just put you on pause here for a second.
Sure.
We've been waiting for the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to speak. You can see that he has local, I believe the mayor is with him, the mayor of Philadelphia, also fire officials, first responders, police officials. Let's listen in with the mayor and the governor.
Went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue, and it did occur shortly after 6 p.m. Again, we have no reports on the number of fatalities, so we are asking everyone for their thoughts and prayers for all who may have been impacted and affected by this tragedy. Several dwellings and vehicles were also impacted, and so we are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please, if you see anything. Investigators and all of our federal, state, and local partners are working as expeditiously as possible during this very difficult time. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now available at the Samuel Fells High School located at 5500 Langdon Street. Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street. If anyone has been impacted and you need shelter and support, it is readily available for you. In terms of our federal and state partners, I want to say a special thank you to the NTSB. They are here on site now. The FAA, the Pennsylvania State Police, Pennsylvania DEP, of course our police and fire departments, and OEM. I am here with Governor Shapiro. We've been in constant contact since it started. You'll be hearing from him shortly. But I also want to say a special thank you to our additional partners who we have spoken with, our federal leaders, U.S. Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Thank you so very much. All hands on deck. They wanted to make sure any and everything that we needed from the federal government, those supports and services are available. Congressman Evans, Boyle, and Scanlon, our congressional delegation, a special thank you to each of you for your support. I also need to affirm that locally here, Senator Joe Picozzi, Rep. Solomon, Reps. Nielsen, Doherty, who represents this area, and Bellman, Commissioner Dealey, and Councilmember Driscoll was present. If there was ever a time when we needed to affirm what the One Philly philosophy means, the time is now, and I'm very proud about how our federal, state, and all of our local partners are working hard to deal with this tragedy. I now want to turn it over to our governor and to say thank you, Governor, for your support and being here with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The mayor preaches about One Philly. She talks about a unified approach to governing every day. What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another. I want to reaffirm the comments the mayor said about all of the different agencies working together, and I want to especially thank and salute Philly Fire and Philly Police, who did an extraordinary job this evening. We know that there will be loss in this region, and we want to offer our thoughts and our serious prayers for those who are grieving at this moment. The mayor knows, and I want you all to know, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania stands firmly with our partners in the city. We have, at the request of Commissioner Bethel, 45 state troopers who are on the ground right here in Northeast Philly. We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, who offered his full support to Northeast Philly. And as the mayor alluded to, he has dispatched 4 members of the FAA to Philly, and there are 4 members of NTSB on their way as well. We have all the resources that we need. And again, as the mayor always says, One Philly, we are unified in our approach to deal with this emergency. And again, I'll just end by sharing my prayers, the prayers of my wife, Lori, our First Lady, and on behalf of 13 million Pennsylvanians, we are all here for Northeast Philly tonight in this very, very difficult moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. When we have additional information to report, we will come back and give another briefing. But now we want to let our federal, state, and local partners do their jobs and go to work. We'll report back to you when we have more information. Thank you all so very much for your patience and understanding.
The mayor of Philadelphia, the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the mayor emphasizing anybody sees any debris, don't touch it. It's an active investigation. Call 911. Shelter is available for people that have been impacted by this crash tonight of this Learjet 55. It's available at a local high school. Both the governor, the mayor praising state, local, federal authorities, the NTSB, the new Department of Transportation head, Secretary Duffy, and emergency officials, state, local, federal partners all joining, and neighbor helping neighbor, as Governor Shapiro said. And our prayers for everybody, and everybody seems united. We continue with former NTSB investigator that is now joining us. Charlie Pereira is with us. Charlie, thank you. Let's get your take. We don't have a lot of time left in this hour, but what did you see tonight with that Learjet, like a rocket headed towards Earth?
Yeah, they pretty much covered most everything. When we first discussed it a couple hours ago when it first happened, I was in an interview when it happened, and the initial impression looking at the radar data is climbing out 2,400 feet per minute through 1,600 feet, and then all of a sudden comes down like that. So, some kind of a flight control, or I guess from the latest videos you can see some kind of emissions from the airplane on its way down, it appears. So maybe there was a fire inside. Maybe they did have, something going on with the oxygen inside the airplane that caught on fire somehow. That would explain his inability or
when they
lack
recover.
of
Charlie, we're just out of time this hour, but hopefully when those black boxes are recovered, we'll get a lot more information on how this happened. Our prayers are with everybody impacted by all of this. I know I speak for the entire country. It's sad. That's all the time we have left this evening. Please stay with the Fox News channel. We'll have continuing coverage of this Learjet 55 going down outside of Philadelphia. Our coverage continues now with my friend and my colleague, Trace Gallagher. Thank you for being with us.
And good evening. I'm Trace Gallagher. It's 10 p.m. on the East Coast, 7 o'clock here in Los Angeles. This is a special edition of America's Late News, Fox News at Night. And breaking tonight, we have another plane crash less than 48 hours after the first. This time, we're talking about a medical transport plane. It's a Learjet 55, and apparently it crashed just outside of a mall in Philadelphia. Shortly after 6 o'clock, this Learjet took off, and the air traffic control is saying around 6:06. And at 6:06:30 seconds, it apparently went off radar. So it went off radar and that crashed into the ground, heavily fueled, and exploded. You can see the pictures there. 6 people on board. There are no reports of any survivors. We're talking about 4 crew members, including a young medical patient and her mother. The crash ignited several fires on the ground. Hundreds of rescue workers and officials on the scene. We will have live coverage throughout the night. This happened in Philadelphia, about maybe 12 to 15 miles away from the North Philly airport where it took off. Let's begin with Alexis McAdams. Alexis, she's live for us in New York. What do you know? What are you hearing about this?
Hey, Trace. Well, as you were on earlier, too, and it was all developing, we were trying to figure out who was on that airplane. We now know, finding out just a short time ago from some officials who work with Jet Rescue, that it was a little girl, we don't know her age, who was from Mexico, who had been getting life-saving treatment in Philadelphia. So they have some of the best hospitals. So somebody paid to allow her to come from Mexico near Tijuana with her mom to get this life-saving treatment. They had just wrapped up that treatment, I'm told, today. They were on that airplane with a crew who were all Mexican nationals as well. They were going to be heading to Missouri to refuel. So when we're talking about how much fuel was on that plane, they had just taken off. They were going to stop in Missouri, refuel, and head back to Tijuana, Mexico. So if that doesn't break your heart, I don't know what was. This girl went through all these procedures and treatments, and her plane went down on her way home. So that's coming as we're learning more details also about these fires. So I think, you talked to all these aviation experts and they try to explain, was the plane on fire when it was going down? Well, all you know is the thing slammed right into the middle of a very busy area. This was around rush hour in Philadelphia. So people were coming and going all near that mall. And then you see this huge fireball come right down. There is so much debris. There are pieces all over the place of this jet. So big pieces, small pieces, and the entire area is covered in jet fuel. So that's kind of the main concern, as you just heard from the mayor and also the governor. They've got 4 FAA officials heading there, 4 NTSB crews, 45 state troopers, and lots of fire crews. I just got off the phone a short time ago, too, with one of those fire officials who told me the fires are under control, but that was after 2 homes at least were lit on fire. It spread then to 6 row homes. So 6 row homes near that mall, Trace, lit on fire. At least 6 cars near that mall went up into flames. So that's why when you're looking at what looked like a war zone in some of that video, was because it was igniting, popping, and then combine it with the jet fuel. This thing was pretty much a disaster. So going back to sending our thoughts and prayers to this little girl's family who's now finding out that she's not coming home. We'll have more details, though, as we get it.
Yeah, Alexa McAdams will get back to you as the news warrants. Thank you. Yeah, they talk about this, and the reporting on the ground is that there are a number of injuries of people around there. Some of them are reported burns. We do not know if those people were actually in the vicinity of the crash itself or if they were in the homes that caught fire. There were some row homes that were in nearby this mall. The mall itself, the Roosevelt Mall, includes stores like Macy's and Ross Dress for Less, and it has things like Raising Cane, a series of restaurants on the outside. And this apparently crashed in an intersection very near the mall. And so the injuries happened in the people who were near those areas walking or in the homes nearby. But the authorities have not told us exactly where the injuries happened, just that they did happen. It's interesting because there was also a report from our Fox affiliate in Philadelphia that said that they found debris scattered for a wide area. And then they found a quarter of a mile away was an actual oxygen tank. And there was no speculation as to see if the oxygen tank was damaged in any capacity. So we don't know that. But a lot of the airline experts are speculating that maybe oxygen played a role in this. Again, it's early. Nobody knows, because other airline experts will say, we don't really know. We have no idea. They think it probably looks like engine failure. And our own John Scott, who will join us later, thinks it might be something to do with the weather, with spatial disorientation, with losing the instruments and then plummeting to the ground because of some sort of disorientation. I want to bring in a witness to this crash in Philadelphia. This is Kyle Mazza. And Kyle, I'm not sure if you can hear me here, but I just want to know, when you say witness, I want to know what you saw at the time and what you heard, if you can describe it for us, Kyle.
Yeah, you guys have been airing it nonstop.
Kyle?
So I was in D.C. covering the incident there, and when I was in the Philadelphia area, all of a sudden I witnessed this huge fireball, and flames were everywhere. And I rushed to the scene, and that's when literally everything in front of me was on fire. Parts were scattered everywhere from the plane. And so I went out to cover it, but almost immediately the officers came up to me and said that I had to get out of the area. So I was scrambling to find another vantage point as everything was unfolding. And that's what I witnessed. I witnessed flames everywhere. Houses were on fire as well. And just, as I said, debris scattered everywhere. And also, too, at this press conference, you did hear the governor and the mayor reiterate not to touch any of the aircraft parts because it's part of the crime scene investigation. And when I covered the incident in D.C. as well, the same sentiment was shown there as well. Don't touch anything on the ground because it's all a crime scene investigation right now as they work to figure out what happened.
Kyle, I'm just wondering, did you see, because there are reports of injuries on the ground, did you see anybody who had been hurt, anybody who you believe that might have been hurt, or did you hear about where the debris actually went? Is it the debris that started the fires in the row houses, or was that the flames and the actual explosion itself?
Well, I think that the flames were a big part of it, really, honestly. The flames were so intense, and as you see, the damage is so widespread. And as far as seeing any victims on the ground, I just saw people running away from the scene. That's primarily what I witnessed. I didn't see anyone who was injured or who had burns on them, but I did see a lot of people running away from that scene. And like I said, as it was happening so quickly, so fast, that's when I tried to get those images. But again, the police were just escorting everybody out, because the damage and debris field is so wide, and they just are very worried about contamination and just keeping everyone safe.
Could you smell anything, Kyle? I mean, was there a smell in the air? Was it the smoke? Could you smell the jet fuel?
Of course I could smell that, and I could also smell, obviously, the smoke from the fire itself. And it was very intense, and I coughed a lot because you can hardly breathe in that. And covering fires, too, I'm quite used to that, but this was more intense since it added jet fuel on top of, a regular fire. So it was really intense just to feel that and to see all of that unfold.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at this, Kyle, and the pictures are just amazing of the explosion. And I'm wondering, did you talk to anybody who was closer who might have felt the heat? Was there any feeling of how strong this actual heat and how far that it was actually felt?
Well, I think that everyone, when adrenaline rushes, I think everyone was focused on getting out of the area, as everything was happening. And I don't think, in that moment you feel that. You want to get out. You want to get out of harm's way. And that's primarily what I wanted to do as well, because the police, as I said, were escorting me and everyone else basically out of the area as the fires and flames were burning. So, the injuries that, a lot of people probably felt on the ground. Civilians were definitely impacted by this, Yeah. And I was impacted as well. And being a, photographer and journalist, I see it too. But, it does take a toll on you when you cover these types of incidents. But you need to be focused on getting the story directly to the public, because that's what they deserve. They deserve the real story. They deserve what's going on the ground. They need to know about what's happening in their community.
Yeah, I'm wondering if people had a chance that were seeing this wreckage come down, if people had a chance to scatter, or was it just too fast, Kyle?
I think it was too fast. I mean, now everyone is, kind of looking and veering on and trying to see, what's going on the ground, what's down there and the houses that were on fire, the damage to all of that. But the cordon is just so wide now. And authorities are very concerned that the evidence could be contaminated, and especially with the weather as well. So I think everyone is erring on the side of caution, especially with this large debris field. And you also have a large perimeter, since it's a large crime scene. And the darkness and the weather, those two things do not help in this situation.
Yeah. Kyle, thank you for your firsthand knowledge of this. We appreciate this. I just want to kind of piggyback there on what Kyle was saying, because Fox 29's Drew Anderson, John Scott was reporting earlier, because we got weather reports, and I'm going to kind of put this up there for you. But John Scott was saying the weather he thinks was a factor because he was actually in Philadelphia driving through at the time of the crash. Fox 29's Drew Anderson says that ice was not a factor due to the plane's altitude at the time of the crash, meaning that for planes to ice, you need to be at a higher altitude where the temperatures are a lot colder. When the plane took off, the pilots did have to deal with some rain and may have experienced some whiteout conditions from low cloud coverage. And the point there being that John Scott brought this up is that the pilots may have lost instruments as they went into this cloud cover, and then they actually got something known as spatial disorientation, where you can't tell up from down. I mean, there's an old term when you're flying flying. It's called flying by the seat of your pants, and it means that you are drawn into the seat itself when you're flying straight and level. And sometimes people and pilots will rely on that to actually keep them level and to try to fly out of the clouds. But spatial disorientation is very real. It's very dangerous, and many planes have been put into death spirals because of that. I want to bring in Fox Report anchor and licensed pilot John Scott, because, John, we talked about the weather, and if you didn't hear it, they were saying that icing was not a factor due to the plane's altitude at the time of the crash. But your point was not necessarily icing, it was loss of instruments in being in low cloud cover and the possibility of that causing problems for the pilots. Explain that, John.
Right. Well, as you mentioned, Trace, I was in Philadelphia. I was driving through Philadelphia tonight at around the time of the crash. And when I heard about it, I looked at the thermometer on my truck, and it said 49 degrees. So it would have been very close to that at 1,600 feet, which is the maximum altitude that they reached. Icing, meaning ice coating the wings and causing the plane to behave erratically and maybe come down, that was not a factor here. But I just have to wonder if they didn't either lose instruments or lose lighting in the cockpit somehow right after takeoff, because to get only to 1,600 feet and then come down the way they did suggests they lost control of the airplane. And I think that's because they couldn't tell up from down. Now, you know, it could have been a case where they maybe they knew they had a problem. Maybe they tried to pull back on the yoke and they overcorrected, and something might have fallen off the plane. If they find a piece of a wing or the horizontal stabilizer tomorrow in somebody's backyard, that's going to tell them a lot about what caused this accident.
Yeah, I was reading this earlier, John. This is from the Associated Press, saying that the flight data showed a small jet taking off from the airport 6:06 p.m. and disappearing from radar about 30 seconds later after climbing to an altitude of, as you mentioned, 1,600 feet. Disappearing from radar. The process of disappearing from radar, John, is it when you lose the transponder, or can radar still pick you up until you actually get to an altitude where it can no longer scan?
Well, you know, the radar, it's just you see those antennas, you know, swirling around in circles. So they register. I don't know exactly what the speed is, but the radar will sweep around in a 360-degree circle, and maybe every 15 seconds or so, it will pick up a target, in this case, the jet. The fact that it disappeared from radar simply means that the radar turned away, and when it came back, the jet was gone, which, based on the speed with which this thing dropped, makes complete sense, I think.
Yeah. John, I want you to listen with me, because we just got our first recording of the audio, the tower audio with this plane. It's a little long, so it clearly starts before the plane took off. But I want you to listen, and then we can kind of analyze it on the backside. Watch this.
Medevac, med-service 056, on departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff, wind 25010. Medevac, med-service 056, affirmative. On departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff. Medevac, med-service 056, contact Philly departure 123.8.
123.8, Mike Tango Sierra 056 Medevac. Thank you, good day.
Medevac med-service 056, Northeast Tower, contact Philly 123.8. Medevac med-service Northeast Tower. Medevac med-service 056, Northeast Tower, you on frequency?
Medevac Mike Tango Sierra 056, Northeast Tower, how do you hear this transmission?
Medevac med-service 056, Northeast Tower.
Northeast Tower,
3609 Foxtrot, Northeast Ground, Roger. Stand by one. I'll get back to you when I can.
Stand by.
First to runway 24, what's going on down there? Position 765. We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed, so no inbounds or outbounds probably. All right, understand. Thank you. 60908 Foxtrot. I'm sure you copied that, but for right now, we're gonna call the field closed. We'll try to get you out here when we can. If we can't, we'll have to take you over to Atlantic. But stand by for now.
So the audio runs, John Scott, roughly 2 minutes. And you can see in the first 12, 14 seconds, you have the medevac plane responding. It says 290, they respond. And then I'm not sure if they responded twice, but it's possible they responded twice. And then you have this series of medevac, and there's no response at all, John. So it appears like after Wheels Up, there was no response. Do you find something different in that?
No, I think you have it exactly right. One of the pilots replays or restates the intended takeoff runway and the heading after takeoff. So they're taking off on runway 24. Then they're supposed to turn about 50 degrees to the right as they climb to a heading of 290. And the tower asks them to switch over to Philly approach, which, for those who don't know, it's a different traffic controller that covers a larger area outside the actual airfield. So they apparently never did that, because you can hear some agitation in the tower controller's voice when he's asking if they are on frequency. They never switched over to the other frequency, which normally happens when you get to about 1,500 feet or so. So I think, pardon me, they were already having problems. And again, that heading that they were supposed to fly, 290, I need to look carefully at a map of where this accident happened, where the crash took place.
Right.
But I believe that they went beyond 290 and almost made a 180-degree turn and flew back to the east instead of the west, which was their intended direction and what air traffic control told them to do. They went back to the east and crashed east of the airport, I believe. And that tells me that they were already lost.
And that's what my thoughts exactly, John, because you're looking at this, and as we explained the other night, you're looking, when they're giving you things, they're giving you compass directions, and it's exactly right where you think maybe they turned, maybe they recognized there was a problem. The old rule is that you aviate, navigate, and then communicate. No time to communicate. Right. You want to make sure you get this plane right. So they turned. Maybe this was an attempt to maybe head back to the airport. Maybe they recognized a problem before, because it got to 1,600 feet. And then, it was well before they got to 1,600 feet. There was zero communication between the ATC, the air traffic controller, and the pilots. But it seems like there might have been some action right before or right after they got to 1,600 feet.
Right, and curious that you don't hear a mayday from the pilot, anything like that. Now, you are exactly correct. You're supposed to fly the plane first, and the last thing you do is talk on the radio. But there's no mayday, nothing like that. So it's very strange, but I think my gut tells me they're going to find that it was a loss of control and probably loss of instruments somehow that led to this accident. Now, one related note is, if the pilots found that they were, maybe they have an airspeed indicator that is suddenly climbing very quickly, that tells them that they're not leaving the ground. Now they're heading toward the ground. They may have pulled back on the yoke, and that could have broken something off of the airplane. You can do that. You can overstress an airplane. You can snap a wing off if you act too quickly at high speeds, and something like that could have happened, and at that point they don't have an airplane they can control at all.
Right, but I wonder if you go through the process of elimination, John, and I know it's all early, but if you go through the process of elimination, if in fact they were not on the heading they were given and they tried to turn back, that would indicate that maybe it wasn't this catastrophic thing or this inside explosion. Maybe it was something they simply lost, and they tried to correct the ship before it just went down. It just stalled and then went into a spin.
Sure, and when you look at the angle at which they came to Earth, that doesn't necessarily mean that something had broken off. it's hard to describe for people who don't fly, but spatial disorientation is so wicked. And, you know, I've mentioned that that's what killed JFK Jr. It's what led to the Kobe Bryant crash, because you're in the clouds, you can't see anything. Your inner ear is telling you that this way is up when it's really the other way. It's just very, very difficult. You've got to rely on your instruments. And if for some reason they weren't able to see their instruments, maybe they had an instrument failure, it would have been very, very difficult to bring that plane in safely anywhere.
Yeah, it's good analysis as always, John Scott. Stand by if you would. I want to go back to Alexis McAdams. She has some breaking news. Alexis, what are you finding?
Well, Trace, I've been trying to make calls to fire officials who are on the ground, because the question is, now that we know about this poor little girl and her mom and these crew members from Mexico that lost their lives, you're looking at these burned out cars. Were people in those cars at the time when this plane went down? The fire official tells me he heard about at least one person who was walking around, he said, quote, on fire near the scene. So he said there's a lot of foot traffic in this area there. And whatever happened with this explosion going down, we know there was also some type of gas leak or gas main break that happened. There was just fumes and, you know, fuel everywhere. So according to some fire officials, they say there were some burn victims. We don't know exactly how bad those injuries are, but when you look at this area that looks like some type of, you know, war zone, you got to think about the other people on the ground that were hurt. This was during rush hour there in Philadelphia. It's a busy area, a busy city, and a busy time to be on the road, and this plane goes right down. So I wanted to talk about the debris field, because, Trace, you were talking about this earlier. The medical oxygen tanks, so when you're talking about where all these pieces of the plane went, the medical oxygen tank, we're told by a witness, went about a quarter mile from the scene. So with that power from going down and the oxygen tanks on board, that thing went flying. And then also there's a McDonald's nearby from looking at some maps and some of this video, and then also a diner. Witnesses and workers at that diner say somebody was sitting down having dinner when a big piece of metal broke right through the glass of the diner and hit someone in the head. I don't know how badly that man is injured, but that is coming from the diner there on the ground and from reporters trying to get information. Going back to what we know as well about the victim, just for people tuning in, we can tell you that it's a young girl. They won't give her age yet because they don't want to give too much information, as they still have not identified her by name. But we know her and her mom died on their way back to Mexico, as well as those crew members. In terms of how experienced they were, I know you and John have been talking about that. We're told by the jet company that they were very experienced. So you can, you know, put with that as you will. We know 4 FAA officials are out there. The NTSB is on scene, the governor, the mayor. We're just hoping in that next briefing that they'll give a little bit more information. They're asking for prayers, and they're also telling people don't touch anything. That's because jet fuel is so dangerous, and this whole area is basically contaminated. So they've got some officials in there, too, trying to clear that out as well, Trace.
Yeah. Alexis, great information. Thank you. I just want to read kind of what Alexis was saying there. We just got the statement just to kind of give the verbatim here. All 6 people aboard were from Mexico. The child had been treated in Philadelphia for a life-threatening condition and was being transported home to Mexico, according to Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. The flight's final destination was Tijuana after a stop in Missouri. The patient and her mother were on board along with 4 crew members. This was a seasoned crew, they're saying, and that everyone involved in these flights goes through rigorous training. And the quote here is, when an incident like this happens, it's shocking and surprising. All of the aircraft are maintained. Not a penny is spared, because we know our mission is so critical. This, by the way, if you didn't hear it, this is a high-end rescue ambulance service, air ambulance service, if you will. This is the same company that actually picked up David Ortiz when he was shot in the Dominican Republic several years ago. They took him back to Boston, and you know, this is one of those places, one of those people that, or services that uses great jets. This is a great airplane, and their safety record is immaculate. Let's bring in retired airman, American Airlines Captain and Coast Guard Aviator Steve Blankenship, a former flight nurse who served a helicopter crash into the Potomac River 20 years ago, Jonathan Godfrey, former Black Hawk helicopter crew chief Mark McKeithran, and retired Air Force Brigadier General Christopher Walker. Thank you, gentlemen, all for coming on. This is great. I want to go to you, if I can, very first, General. I'm curious, Jonathan, let me just go to you. I'm curious what you think when you hear that John Scott and I talking about the whole conversation between the air traffic control and the plane. There was certainly confirmation when they might have just been wheels up, but after that it was silence and they went to 1,600 feet and there was no response at all from the airplane. What do you make of that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think that aviating and controlling the aircraft at that point is the primary concern. I think it's not unusual, especially if there was an emergency.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Steve, to you, give me your take on what you think might have happened. There's a lot of different theories out there. What are you leaning toward when you see the condition of the plane, when you hear the transmission between the air traffic control tower and the pilots? What is your best assessment of this, Steve?
Well, I tell you what, we've had a lot happen to us in the past 48 hours. This is a hard assessment to make. I heard about disorientation. That's a possibility. But based on what you said, Trace, about the training of this company and what they have to go through, having gone through that type of training, I doubt very seriously if these seasoned instrument pilots would have had an issue that they couldn't recover from unless everything went dark ship, and then God knows what you do in that situation. Without instruments and IFR conditions, it'd be very, very difficult to maintain a straight and level flight or even a normal climb out with a turn. Mm-hmm. And remember, Trace, 1,600 feet, that's just a couple of heartbeats. It could have been also something catastrophic happened to the flight control system. They could have lost an engine, got it sideways, spiraled into the ground. It's only speculation, my friend, at this point.
Is there an indication to you, Steve, when you see and you hear that we were talking about the fact that they were told to go at 290, so they were told to head at 290, and they ended up kind of coming back to the east, and that's where the crash. Does it sound like there was an attempt to try and right this airplane?
Either that or they had an engine failure that turned them that specific heading. That's what happens. If you don't catch an engine failure real quick and press on the opposite rudder to maintain a straight line of flight, the airplane will yaw to the left or the right, depending on which engine fails. So that's highly probable, too. I think that would be my first guess. At 1,600 feet, to erratically have a departure from a climb out, the nose of the airplane going the opposite direction clearly points a potential engine failure to me at this juncture. But Trish, 1,600 feet,
Let me just pause you there, Captain, really quickly. I want to dip into our local affiliate because they're talking to someone on scene.
Young child with a head laceration. A piece actually went through a red pickup's window, hit the kid, and the parents were shouting, "Help us! Help us! Help us!" No one was around to help at the time. Cops were just approaching. I took the shirt off my back, gave it to them, said, "Push this on his head, keep pressure." I ran back to my car. I got rags. I got anything I could find to absorb blood, push on cuts. My mom worked at a doctor's office. She was there. She was helping me. She's disabled. She doesn't walk fast. She was walking fast. And cops were very thankful to us. They said, "Thank you very much. We've got this now. Please try to get out of here safely." There were 3 or 4 car accidents just getting out of the mall. And I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I got home. I threw up twice. Because the adrenaline just said, "Hi, I'm here." And I threw up. It was a very shocking and disturbing experience, seeing everything that happened.
Did you know it was a plane right away?
I figured it was a helicopter or plane because I was hearing someone say it was a 747. I'm like, it's too small. We would have heard it. Those big engines. I find out it's a Learjet 55. My sister works on airplanes, literally at Northeast Airport. Well, not anymore, actually. And she texted me saying, "Yo, did you see that?" Yeah. Because she knew that I was going to be right there. She was She was worried. My entire family was worried. My daughter texted me and saying, please be okay. Please be okay. Please be okay. And I literally got home and I collapsed. I was unable to do anything for a little while.
So when the plane initially crashed, you said the truck next to you got impaled with some debris. Did you see anything like that else going on around you, or was that truck like
Very, very much so. The car that was parked on Cottman on the side had a hole at least 2 feet big in its windshield, and it was burning. I looked in.
That car? It was just parked.
I don't know. I looked and I couldn't see anyone. I'm hoping that the child got out safely. I don't know anymore. I wish I could find them because it was a small silver car and say, thank you for being alive. Thank you for getting out. The brunt of the impact was absorbed by Dunkin' Donuts. And then I've been scared, but this was a new level.
You've been listening to a witness describe the horrific moments that he witnessed this plane crash in northeast Philadelphia.
That was graphic, and that was about as good a description as we have heard about what was happening on the ground when the plane hit. Just to kind of couple up on that, NBC Philadelphia reporting saying 6 people were injured in this. The 6 victims were all taken to Temple University's hospital. They're talking about people on the ground. Temple University Hospital's Jeans campus, 3 people were treated and released while 3 others remain in the hospital, the source said. The victims include an 11-year-old boy who suffered head injuries, a 31-year-old man who suffered head injuries, and a 30-year-old woman who suffered facial injuries, according to the source. And he was talking about a child that got hurt. We have no idea if it's the same child, but it gives you an indication of exactly what was happening on the ground here. Very descriptive. Mark, to you, when you look at all the scenarios and you hear people say, I think it might have been some oxygen containers because this was a medevac plane. When you hear those types of things coupled with spatial disorientation and engine loss, what are you thinking?
Well, initially, it's definitely all speculation at this point. There's just no way of knowing at this moment, not until we get a look at that black box, see what the controls were, see what the internal communications was. There's just no real good way to identify that. However, each of those things that others have discussed here, all of those are distinctly possible, and they are common. I lost a very good crew chief friend of mine, Luke DeGroff, his first flight in Honduras. When he went inadvertent IMC, went into the clouds, they lost spatial orientation and crashed into a mountain. This happens. Weight and balance issues happen, especially after takeoff. And there's a number of things. Flight controls get lost, especially on an aircraft like that, which is very sensitive to fly anyways. Any number of things could be going on, but we just won't know until we get access to that box.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. General Walker, what do you think? As you see the video and you see this thing, we don't really even know, General, if this thing was on fire when it came down. There were, of course, reports, and there was some video that made it look like it was on fire, but there's other video where it looks like it's just lit up and not on fire at all.
I say it was not on fire. It looked like it was the landing lights, because typically it's not mandated, but typically keep the landing lights on when you're within 10 miles of the airport or below 10,000 feet. But from the angle of descent, it looked to me like a stall. So it had to have been.
I don't know if you guys saw the footage, but that definitely looked like it was on fire. Yes, the landing lights, I can see that. But the first footage that I saw of it coming down, my first instincts was it was like a missile or something, you know? Because it looked like it had a flame or some sort of thing on it. But again, make your own judgment and call on that one.
Control surface failure or engine loss or something like that, or the instruments totally went out. But I'm telling you, I know people throughout my career who end up working for some of these companies. They are well experienced, and even if the instruments went dark, I do not see an experienced crew just falling out of the sky like that. So I think there had to be some other mechanical malfunction.
Yeah. Steve, back to you now, Captain. I appreciate you were just talking about this, and we interrupted you a little bit talking about the fact that this might have been an engine loss. It might have been engine failure. Is it highly unusual to lose both engines? And when you were talking about if you lose one engine, it's kind of the old dead engine, dead rudder. You want to make sure that you compensate. Fair assessment?
That's perfectly accurate, having been there and done that. Yes, sir, it is.
And
yeah, look at all those cars right here. Look at all that. Man, it looks like a war zone down there right now.
So what does that mean? What's the danger if you don't? If it happens and you lose an engine, you would know which engine and you would know how to compensate, right?
You should, but it's important to step on the right rudder. If you step on the wrong rudder, you're only exacerbating the situation of the engine failure. Something catastrophic might have happened. I don't think that can be ruled out. But one of the gentlemen, pretty wise, said, we're really not going to know until we get the tapes, till we get the recorders, the flight data recorder and the voice recorder. They will.
I was wondering, do they? So anytime there's like a black box, right? We always heard like the black box in plane crashes and things like that. How do they find it? Like. They just literally, is it like going like a needle in a haystack? Oh, there it is. Like with all that technology, wouldn't you think it had some sort of like beacon or, an air tag in it? I don't know. Something that we could actually like just go and find it, pick it up and move the investigation along. That I'm curious about, and how they find these black boxes and where they're kind of positioned in the plane and how the explosions, I'm sure that's all part of the mathematical equation to kind of figure out the direction of where this thing is. But I've always been curious on how, if and how they do find these black boxes to determine what was really going on board.
Paint a real clear picture, Trace, of what happened there, and I hope they can find them. I hope they survive the crash.
Yeah, I want to play this just in case.
So like others have said.
Well, I guess we got, so I didn't subscribe to Fox News, obviously, so looks like my preview is done. But anyways, I think we got all the information pretty much up to this point. Again, everything's going to be repeated and said in different in a different way. So yeah, this is very interesting, and so we've been covering this for the last like 3 hours. I'm going to cut this stream down and keep doing research, and as things unfold, I'm going to pop back up here on live. So again, if this is your first time on the channel, I do appreciate it. It's been a few months since I've streamed, kind of doing a little bit of a reband for the channel. And I'm going to kind of give a little bit of everything, kind of updates on what's going on. I've got some local projects here in Baltimore that I'm currently working on behind the scenes. I'd like to put together like a small, I don't want to say documentary, but just a small video of an idea that I've had with kind of like people on the streets of Baltimore City. Again, I'm an implant here in Baltimore, so a lot of this to me, living in the country and then being in the city is fascinating to say the least. Not that, people's situations, good or bad are what I'm kind of looking at, but there's certain parts of like city lifestyles that for me as a person that didn't grow up from the start in a city is very fascinating to me. So I'm going to be working on those. Work gets in the way, which is bullshit. But anyways, so thank you for joining us on this. Again, as things develop and we get other news, I'm gonna pop back on here. I'm gonna do some more research on that Mexico company. I hope that it just doesn't pop. I hope that doesn't become a thing, that this was an intentional or planned or whatnot. I really just hope that this was a mistake, a malfunction of something that can be explained by parts of failure of the aircraft or the pilot. I just hope this is just a freak accident. I really don't want this to be connected with any of the type of the cartel stuff that we've been hearing on the news and what Donald Trump, our president, is doing inward of our country. So again, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, I'll see you guys real soon. Keep everybody safe. reach out to people within the Philadelphia area and even in the surrounding areas, because over here it's a small area where a lot of people, it's easy to travel. You could live well outside of the city, but travel into the city for work. I mean, I know people here in Baltimore will travel to Philly. It's really not that far of a drive. I mean, you're shooting up 95 and you're there in an hour and a half. So you guys stay blessed. Keep up the positive attitudes. Keep God in your forefront and for our country. And I'll see you guys very, very, very soon. Thanks a lot for